This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Kalispell, Montana, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. And give us a call, 208-991-4783. Well, I hope that the sound quality of today's commentary is a little bit better than on Fridays, because now we are recording from a professional studio as opposed to a cell phone in a hotel room. I do want to let you know that today's episode of Barrie Craig is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support. It's truly appreciated. Well, we actually only had one lost episode between this last week's show and this week's show. This one is called Behold a Corpse. It aired on March 1st of 1953. So we'll take a listen and then we'll come back.
Bromo Seltzer and NBC present William Gargan, starring as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
There's a familiar saying which goes, give a rogue enough rope and he'll hang himself. The theory holds fine, except in one instance. What if the chap doling out the rope happens to be the hangman?
Bromo Seltzer, famous for fast relief of headache and upset stomach, and the National Broadcasting Company present William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
This is Bill Gargan. Before I tell you about tonight's story, which I call Behold a Corpse, here is a message from Bromo Seltzer, famous for fast relief of upset stomach as well as headache.
Miss Jordan, report to clinic. Miss Jordan, report to clinic. Miss Jordan.
In recent clinical research, nurses reported that sparkling, refreshing Bromo Seltzer relieved distress of stomach acidity and nervous indigestion better, more effectively than other leading upset stomach remedies tested. You see, Bromo Seltzer contained sodium citrate, one of the finest ingredients known to doctors for the relief of acid indigestion. And only Bromo Seltzer gently relieves nervous tension so often associated with upset stomach. Next time you have acid indigestion, take Bromo Seltzer. Like so many nurses, you too may agree.
For upset stomach, Bromo Seltzer works best.
Remember, for prompt relief of stomach acidity as well as headache, take sparkling, refreshing Bromo Seltzer. For best results, use cool water, follow the label, avoid excessive use. And next time your stomach is upset, remember that many nurses report.
For upset stomach, Bromo Seltzer works best.
Barrie Craig speaking. A confidential investigator isn't always hired on his merits. His merits as a fact finder, I mean. Some clients choose you because they hope you're stupid. They don't want a cop. They want a stooge. You're to be the front behind which they can keep a criminal operation going. You're the rubber stamp certifying their sincerity so they can get away with murder. Yeah, you get them like that. Cases phony from the word go. That was my first hunch on Brenda Connor, a brunette with a tendency to overact. We launched her case in Central Park in a handsome carriage, complete with horse, silk-hatted driver, and lap robe. Around the park at $3 an hour. But I wasn't paying the tab. The lady was. Why the handsome cab in the freezing weather? I didn't ask. You get used to eccentrics.
The rhythmic clippity-clop. I'm able to think.
So who's the demon?
Demon?
The demon pursuing you.
You have a flippant way, Mr. Craig.
To cover up my emotions. I'm the type who identifies. A sad lady like you, I can cry harder than any little white cloud around. You were about to tell me.
It's my husband.
Funny now how it always is.
Ralph Connor. He was gone for 5 years, completely out of my life.
A long wait for a streetcar.
I'd almost forgotten him. And then 1 week ago, he came back to me.
And you resent his return?
I didn't say that.
That's right, you didn't. But you don't look overjoyed.
No. But it isn't what you think. I have no basic quarrel with my marriage, even despite the separation, but...
Throw the punchline.
Ralph, this man who's my husband come back. I'm not so sure that it is he.
I let Brenda Connor continue to unburden her soul over coffee. The tab was on me this time. How much coffee could a lady drink?
My alarm's about my husband, Ralph.
Yes.
I don't mean to leave the impression with you that...
That you're sure he's an impersonator?
Yes. My reaction to him since his return, my suspicions have been intuitive more than actual. I feel, I don't know.
Her husband takes off for 5 years, and then suddenly he's back. How did you receive him?
Well, gladly enough at first.
You asked him questions?
Yes. His explanation of his absence seemed genuine to me, understandable. He'd been out of sorts with himself. Suddenly 40 and restless, disoriented and neurotic, full of self-dislike, dissatisfaction with the career he'd chosen.
Said career?
Realty management. Connor and Saxton. Saxton is his business partner.
When did the doubt begin for you? The doubt, intuitive as you call it, that this voyager come back maybe wasn't really your husband.
The very first evening. Ralph was different. A stranger I didn't know.
After 5 years, he would be.
Yes, I know. But what I mean is the personality I once knew, the habits, the little things a wife knows about her husband. I could find none of them in this man.
Little things. Can you give me something specific?
Yes. The foods Ralph liked, always liked. This man has very different tastes. And even his speech, his way of phrasing things, and his thoughts so different, so very changed, and even something physical.
What's that?
Left-handed. This man is left-handed. My husband, with the husband I knew, wasn't.
Quite a switch, that. How about his appearance, looks?
Oh, there are some differences. Still differences that could only mean time, how time changes the face. Ralph was full in the cheeks. This man is gaunt, thinner. Oh, mind you, I'm not saying... Oh, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm confused. I'm so confused I can't even think straight, Mr. Craig.
Hooray for confusion. But there was more to it than the lady was telling. There always is. I got a peek into what was omitted in the telling. The time was later that same afternoon. It was raining buckets. I had my formal tie on for a ride over to see the husband, Ralph Connor, firsthand. The great thing about a jalopy, it either starts or it doesn't. Mine wouldn't. Wet wires from the downpour, I figured. But my guess was wrong. There was a gentleman on hand to correct me on it.
You only run your battery down, Craig. Get off the starter.
A guy on a rain slicker slouched in the back of my car. Nice eyes and an easy grin. And a familiar swell near the left armpit. I knew what that swell was. I had one myself to match it. A gun holster.
The wires aren't wet, Craig. There's another reason she won't start.
What's that?
This. Here. Your rotor.
Rotor?
You don't know about cars?
I know they go or don't go.
The rotor belongs under the hood on the engine where the distributor is. I removed it.
Why?
So your car wouldn't go.
Why again?
So you'd bum a ride from me.
Where are you parked?
Right behind you. Come on, I'll chauffeur you.
You sound like you know where I'm going.
Yeah, I think so. See Ralph Connor. You want to look him over.
You're well informed.
I took courses in mind reading. Come on, I'll drive you.
To Ralph Connor, this is?
No, not right away. I've got something else to show you first. You're stalling, Craig.
No, I'm thinking.
About?
The penalty for armed kidnapping.
20 years. Life if you cross state lines. That's the Lindbergh law. And the chair if you compound kidnapping with murder. So what's it to be, Craig?
I'd been grabbed at gunpoint before, but this one had a new wrinkle. No violence, no dent in my skull. No impulsive ride to the country. Just a short ride over to Queens, to a roadhouse you had to shove your way into. More people and floor space. A jam at the bar and a jam on the postage stamp dance floor. People laughing it up. People living it up.
Look over the dance floor. You see something?
Yeah. Sweat and suffocation.
No, I mean faces. For instance, over there, the brunette swooning all over the He-Man in the plaid shirt. You see her?
I see her.
You know her?
Brenda Connor, my client.
Well, that ends my mission. So long, Craig. You're on your own now.
Buster, wait.
Yeah, Craig?
The plaid shirt with my client. He's not Ralph Connor.
Married folks don't spend time here with each other. No, he's Chris Cantura. He's a tennis player.
A tennis player?
Love matches in the hot afternoon sun and love matches under hot blue lights with slender ladies with fat checkbooks.
Is this why you brought me here?
To show you a two-timing wife so you discount half to 90% of what she told you.
Look, as long as we're talking...
I've said all I want to. So you won't knock yourself out identifying me when I'm gone. Here's my card. So long again.
The card he'd left with me read, Mike Hassick, private detective. The guy who'd put the polite snatch on me was a private eye. I switched my plans around. You do with new developments. I didn't try to interview Ralph Connor right off. I drove over to his residence to case the place. Pretty fancy. A townhouse all lit up like utility bills with no concern to anybody. There was a parlor-floor drawing room that opened onto a stone balcony. I was enough of a gymnasium genius to make the balcony without setting up too much of a commotion. After 10 minutes of eavesdropping on the rustle of thick oriental carpets, I got to listen to a live show. Brenda Connor and a guy I took to be her ever-loving mister on the other side of the glass.
You've got that odd look again, Brenda.
Look, Ralph. What odd look?
The frail, pale princess in the grip of a nameless terror.
Oh, you're being cruel deliberately.
Deliberately?
To unnerve me. Push me to the edge of reason. Push me...
Beyond the edge?
Into insanity, yes.
I see. Now suppose you try the shoe.
I tried the shoe.
To see how it fits you. What's been your scheme with me?
Scheme? I have no scheme.
The terrified glances since my return, so nicely timed when company watches, so beautifully acted. And the way you contrived to look at me other times. The unfamiliar stares, if I were not your husband, but an interloper.
Not an interloper, Ralph, but an...
Yes, Brenda?
An imposter.
I see. I am not who I am. Is that what you're saying? Oh, what about me is so changed? I'd like to know, Brenda.
Everything has changed. Your manner, your talk, your habits, so many little things. And not like the Ralph I knew, the Ralph I remember.
An imposter, that was your word. Do you then really think I am not Ralph Connor? That I am somebody else? Some diabolical somebody else playing at being Ralph Connor?
I don't know. I don't know.
It was time to get off the balcony and make a more formal entrance into the life of Ralph Connor through the front door. I started to do same when I had a mishap. Cute word, mishap. It can mean anything. It can mean a tear in your trousers from an unexpected nail. It could mean a ton of brass landing on your head. In my case, it meant the last mentioned. A ton of brass. Ooh! It fell from a height, from upstairs somewhere with cannonball speed. What? Who? I was too sleepy to care. I just lay down.
Back to Barrie Craig in just a moment. Our American heritage of freedom is one of our most priceless possessions. Over a large part of the world today, totalitarian government has done away with many of the liberties we have in our country. Indeed, with the whole list of freedoms given us by our Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech and the press, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, equal treatment under law. Every one of us realizes the vital importance of keeping the liberties we have. But because we often take them for granted, we're not as vigilant in our defense of them as we must be. Keep democracy strong and our American heritage intact by being an active citizen. Serve on school boards, jury panels, and in the government of your community. Combat racial and religious prejudice and all attacks on our liberties from whatever source. Don't be a lazy American. Work for your freedoms. It's the only way to keep them working for you. And now, back to William Gargan, starring as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
One thing about consciousness, it always returns sooner or later. If you're not dead, that is. I wasn't. I had proof I wasn't. I could wiggle a finger. When you're dead, you can't. Rigor mortis won't allow it. I was on a couch with a guy slapping cold compresses on my forehead. A guy with nice eyes and an easy smile and wearing a rain slicker indoors. He was the private eye, Mike Hassick.
Able to get up now, Craig?
I'm up. What hit me?
A flower pot, solid brass. It was on the window ledge 3 flights up.
It fell?
No.
Oh, it was dropped on me.
That's right.
By whom?
Me.
You're working for the Mr. Ralph Connor?
That's right.
An impersonator. Stand in for the real article.
If you want to believe a wacky two-timing wife.
I see. Who owns all the loot in the family? So don't answer it. I can guess the way it shapes. My client, Brenda Connor, does. Your client hasn't got a dime.
That stuff about Ralph Connor being an impersonator is the malarkey, Craig.
Maybe, but answer me this. Can a man who's been right-handed to the age of 40 suddenly turn up left-handed? But don't answer it, Hassick. Think about it while I'm busy somewhere else.
You're going to heckle Connor?
Maybe. Oh, Hassick.
What?
Come here to the rear window a minute.
Yes?
What's outside?
The yard.
Yeah, it's a backyard. Not much of a drop. Only 10 feet, I'd guess it to be.
10 feet. So what?
So one of us has to be discouraged. You've had your whack at me. Now it's turnabout.
Craig, let me go. Put me down.
Put you down? Sure. Exactly what I intend doing. You meet some guys sometimes who have to be paid back in their own coin. I didn't set up a talk with Ralph Connor. I passed him up a second time. I had nothing to say to him yet. Instead, I looked up Saxton of Connor and Saxton, Realty Management. Connor's business partner. Maybe he could shed some light. A short guy with 2 stomachs and pink ears like he was always blushing. There was an oily look to him, like he was an accomplished phony.
I still don't quite understand the purpose of your call here to me, Mr. Craig.
If you've stalled long enough, Saxton...
If I've stalled?
Worked out answers in your head...
Well, I have no ulterior motives in evading you.
Then?
Well, it's just that I don't care to become embroiled in the man's affairs. That is, his affairs other than our joint business. Frankly, I've always found Connor strange and unpredictable, explosive.
He was gone for 5 years.
Yes.
Did you keep his end of the business up all that time?
Oh, yes, scrupulously. His share of the net profits were put into an escrow account for what they amounted to. His drawing account, of course, was suspended while he was gone.
In the time he was away, did he write to you, keep in touch?
No.
Now, a big question. Is he Ralph Connor?
Yes, Mr. Craig.
You don't seem surprised at the question.
No, I'm not surprised anymore. I've been asked the same question before.
By whom?
2 persons. By Mrs. Connor and by a private detective named Mike Hassick.
So Hassick wasn't so sure of his client's identity either.
What's that you said?
Just thinking out loud. What makes you sure this new Connor is the same old Connor?
Why, everything about him.
Like?
Like, well, I don't know how to answer that quite. He looks like Ralph Connor, facially and physically. He knows about me, our business, the background of our business.
He's demonstrated all that to you?
Why, yes, of course. He has demonstrated an intimate knowledge of our business. It couldn't be faked. The man simply had to know.
Connor was Connor. Only thing, Saxton didn't sell me the notion convincingly enough. I double-checked on Saxton's truthfulness by applying some heat to the office bookkeeper of Connor and Saxton.
Why, Mr. Saxton told you outrageous falsehoods. Outrageous!
He didn't ring true to me too much. Good I got to you, Mr. what's it again?
Pippet. I'm the one to tell the truth.
Oh, that's peachy dandy. But, get around to telling it.
Well, now, Ralph Connor, the new one, he's a queer one.
Meaning?
Well, when he came back after being away all that time, he didn't know my name. He kept calling me Pippin and Poppin. Pippin and Poppin, mind you, when it's Pippet, like it's always been.
Pretty staggering.
And then about the business, he didn't know about the old Cameroon account.
He didn't, huh?
The biggest account in the Connor Saxton agency, and he didn't even seem to know he had it. Like this wasn't his business.
What else?
Well, his easy way about money. Tipping me $1 when he sent me out for coffee. The old Ralph Connor only tipped 5 cents.
Is the new Ralph Connor also easy about money in other ways? Business ways, for instance.
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, like not asking for an accounting from Saxton to cover the 5 years Connor was away.
Well, then, there never was an accounting. And Mr. Connor never yet asked for one.
Well, you'd know that. You're the bookkeeper.
Oh, yes. I'd be the one to know, all right.
Is there an escrow account with Connor's share of the profits of the last 5 years in it?
Oh, no, there's no escrow account.
Well, were there any profits the last 5 years Connor's been away?
Oh, yes. Good profits. Business has been very good.
How good were the profits?
Well, I couldn't say without going over the books.
$50,000? Is that close to it?
It isn't far from it.
And a sharpie like Saxton would have reason to play ball with somebody not the real Connor, but an impersonator. Keep all the accumulated business profits, so long as the new Connor didn't stick his hand out or yell for the DA.
Well, I'm afraid now you're getting too deep.
Oh, forget it. You've been a great help. You can go back to your books now, Pippin.
The name is not Pippet.
Oh, my mistake, Poppin.
It's Pippet.
It was time to form an independent impression of Ralph Connor, I figured. The townhouse sat next door to the East River. I'd just gotten to the doorbell when I found myself doing some more eavesdropping. Nothing subtle this time. Anybody for a mile around could eavesdrop along with me. A scream has carrying power. A high-pitched woman's scream. Brenda Connor. I could identify the voice. Brenda Connor at home, either being strangled to death or blowing her top. Inside the house, I didn't get to see my screaming client. She was in her room behind locked doors. The husband, Ralph Connor, told me the melancholy facts. Or do I mean the melancholy fiction?
Brenda is in there in her room with her doctor.
Doctor who?
Does that matter?
It matters. I'm jotting it down in my notebook. Mrs. Connor is my client.
Dr. Phipps. 275 Dartmouth Street, if you also want the address. Phipps is Brenda's own physician.
I get your emphasis. When can I see Mrs. Connor?
I don't know. She's under restraint.
Restraints meaning?
She's had a nervous breakdown.
All of a sudden?
No, my wife has a history of, say, emotional instability. Hallucinations, compulsive behavior, a fascination for unsavory places and people.
That's a careful reference to the roadhouse and tennis Adonis. Mike Hasek made sure I'd see.
Yes, so that you'd be aware of all the facts. This emotional instability in Brenda, it's one of the reasons I left her 5 years ago. I've had all I could stand of hysteria.
You make a glib case of it.
It's the truth.
What happens to Brenda Connor from here on?
Hospitalization. It's not the first time Brenda has been confined before.
And cured?
Evidently not, as this new breakdown shows.
Comes the time she's declared mentally incompetent. Who gets her money?
That is an impertinent question.
I'll answer it. You do. You step into her estate. I'll even bet you've already got the petition before the court with Dr. Phipps's affidavit pinned to it.
I don't care to dignify this nonsense any longer, Mr. Craig. So if you don't mind, good night.
On the street, I had an encounter with a guy who was making a habit of it.
Stop a minute, Craig.
What for, Hasek?
A talk. Friendly talk.
With a gun in my ribs?
The gun's for my own protection. You play too hard.
So do you.
I have to. I'm in it for the cabbage, just like you.
Speak only for yourself.
You'll change your mind. $100,000. We split it down the middle.
Who gives it to us?
Connor, if you don't spoil it for him.
Keep talking.
Connor is a phony, an impersonator, like you said. The real Connor, he probably knocked off somewhere, the way I figure it. But none of our business. Now, this Connor grabs the wife's estate. We let him. You let him. Then the bite. He pays us off. We own him.
You're sure of your facts?
I checked. I sized everything up. Connor's a fake, a smart fake, and the winner. Let's win with him, okay?
Why did Connor hire you in the first place, Hasek?
To follow his wife around, report on who she saw, spent time with, that tennis player, you. So, now tell me, are you playing it smart along with me?
What do you think?
I think you are. Sure you are. What have you got against money?
I played it smart, the poor man's way. I didn't go home and let Connor play out his scheme. I went back to Connor for a closer look at his scheme.
You've become a frequent visitor, Mr. Craig.
Every 10 minutes. I realized out on the street that I'd said things in here to you that were out of line. I'm sorry.
Forget it.
Thanks. I can see now what a screwball Mrs. Connor is and how I went for the bunk. The only thing...
Yes, Mr. Craig.
I'm a working operative. I put in time and sweat. I've had expenses.
Oh, I see. You've got a bill, and you're wondering how you're ever going to get paid.
That's it. It's no obligation of yours, I know.
Oh, nonsense. I'll pay Miss Connor's bill. In fact, I'll make out a check right here and now. How much is it, Mr. Craig?
Well, 100 will about cover it.
$100. Very well. Here you are, Mr. Craig. A $100 check for you.
It means more to me than you think, Mr. Connor.
Oh, you don't have to thank me. The money's due you.
But I didn't mean it like that. Guess again, Connor.
I frankly don't understand you.
I'll explain myself. You wrote out a check, and you also wrote out a confession.
A confession?
You're right-handed. You wrote that check out right-handed. Like Ralph Connor should, since he was always right-handed.
Look here, Craig.
Let me finish. But you've been deliberately left-handed for Mrs. Connor's benefit since you came back to her. To confuse her about you, start her doubting your identity. See you as an imposter, but never be sure. Until she went out of her mind like she has.
Well, you can't prove a thing, Craig.
All kinds of tricks like that to play on her imagination. You thin down, change your known habits and clothes and foods, your style of talk. All to make an already unstable woman a screaming lunatic. Have her declared mentally incompetent so you could take control of her money and her estate. How big is the estate, Connor? Big, I'd judge it to be. No end of money. It has to be a fabulous grab to rate your fancy technique in crime.
I say again, you can't prove a thing.
Because you're really Ralph Connor, huh? And can prove it. Birth certificate, relatives stuck somewhere, fingerprints. That's what you're gambling on. Why you're so cocksure. You're immune, you figure. Win or lose, you can't lose. Since you're really not an impersonator, but the genuine article. Get your hat anyhow, Connor.
My hat? Where are we going?
To the district attorney's office to see what charge he can fit to your kind of cute scheme. Offhand, I'd say conspiracy. But what do you bet the DA finds a few more in the book?
You've been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, Behold a Corpse, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled The Sinister Snowman, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, I find that murder on skis is twice as romantic and deadly as murder on foot. When a skiing champion gets permanently stiff at the joints. Not so much from the cold weather as from the icy chill in a lady's eyes. Good night, folks. See you next week.
Bromo Seltzer, famous for fast relief of headache and upset stomach, and the National Broadcasting Company have brought you Barrie Craig, confidential investigator, starring William Gargan. Featured in the role of Brenda was Barbara Weeks. Carl Caruso speaking.
Tonight enjoy Meet the Press on NBC.
Welcome back. Well, I love that. Don't be a lazy American ad in the middle of the show. A truly timeless message, I would think. And also, I should mention that the one episode that we don't have currently in circulation, the missing episode between last week's show and this week's show, is called Plotters Beware. Well, the plotters of this story did a pretty good job in coming up with a new twist on the old story of missing husband reappears, but is it really the missing husband? As you had the husband pretending to be an imposter. So, mystery writing always continued to be very innovative and well done on Barrie Craig. Well, we do have an email. Aaron emails in to say, one of my favorite parts of the Barrie Craig show is hearing a younger Dom Pardo as the show's announcer. Now in his 90s, Dom Pardo has been the voice of Saturday Night Live for all but one of the show's 30-plus seasons. He's still going strong, and it's great that we have one of our old-time radio voices still working today. Thanks for the great podcast from Aaron in New York. Well, thanks a lot, Aaron. And I had not noticed Pardo, but I did some research. He actually began his radio career in 1944. And is one of those guys who made a career of announcing. He not only did Saturday Night Live, he did quite a few game shows, including Wheel of Fortune, and Price is Right. So he's definitely been quite an institution, and we do get an early sample of his talents on Barrie Craig. So thanks so much for your remarks, and thanks so much to everyone for listening. We will be back tomorrow with Candy Matson, and next Monday, another great episode of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator. Well, before we get started with today's show, I do want to say that this episode of Candy Matson is brought to you by the wonderful financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support. Today's episode of Candy Matson comes several months after the last program we played, the cable car case. This one has actually, often by some collectors, been put as being played in 1950. But Dennis at the Digital Deli went back and confirmed that this episode actually aired on September 23rd of 1949. It's called the Fort Ord story. Let's go ahead and we will take a listen and then come back.
Hello, Yukon 28209. Yes, this is Candy Matson.
Did you ever know a girl private detective? Perhaps not. They're pretty rare. Well, we've got one. Candy Matson is the name. And she's both pretty and rare. Figure? She picks up where Miss America leaves off. Clothes? She makes a peasant dress look like opening night at the opera. Hair? Blonde, of course. And eyes? Just the right shade of blue to match the hair. You're expecting more? All right, let's meet her. She's on the phone now, in her penthouse on Telegraph Hill in San Francisco.
Hello, Candy Matson.
Well, bless my ever-loving little old serial number, Candy Matson.
Watch out how you go tossing your serial number around, Pally. Who is this?
Candy, I hope you remember me. This is Sergeant Kenley down at Fort Ord.
Kenley the Galan, the GI who filled my slipper with beer and drank it.
That's me, the poor man's Diamond Jim Brady.
Sure, I remember you. I met you when I was down at Fort Ord with the USO. What's on your mind, Kenley? Wait a minute, I'll put it this way. What's new?
Oh, like this is new. We're having a big shindig at the Senior Non-Commissioned Officers Club tomorrow night. You were elected as the girl most likely.
Finish the sentence.
Okay, as the girl most likely to be the queen of our ball.
Kenley, you mad lad. I'd adore it. But what would I do for a chaperone?
Oh, what?
Don't play dull. You heard me.
Oh, sure. Well, why don't you bring your mother?
Wonderful idea. And I know just the fellow. Roger, Kenley. I'll report to the orderly room sometime tomorrow afternoon at Fort Ord. That's the way things happen with me, so casually. I'm at home on Telegraph Hill overlooking San Francisco Bay, polishing a few old sapphires, when the phone rings. Sounds innocent, doesn't it? But I ran into 2 rather grisly murders in Monterey. Want some details? Listen. When I told the sergeant I knew just the fellow to be my mother, I meant my old pal Rembrandt Watson. In former days, Rembrandt, an A1 photographer now that he doesn't imbibe, used to see double by noon, triple by 4, and complete darkness by 8. One night the darkness became too dense and he suddenly saw the light. That's when he threw all his bottles out the window. Of course, he was arrested for disturbing the peace, but he hasn't touched a drop since. And when I mentioned Rembrandt as my chaperone, I wasn't fooling. He's been like a mother to me many, many times. He was just back from his vacation, so I got in my car and drove over Powell and down California Street. At Grant Avenue stands Old St. Mary's, and on the bell tower just underneath the clock, there's a sign that says, "Son, observe the time and fly from evil." I'd seen it before, but somehow that afternoon it had an added meaning. I parked my car and went across the street to Rembrandt's apartment.
Candy.
Rembrandt, you old dear, how are you?
Wonderful, just wonderful. Darling, you're looking simply grand.
Slice it thinner, Rembrandt. You've only been gone 3 weeks.
Sorry, dear. Do come in, won't you? I'm just having some tea. Won't you join me, Candy?
I'd love it.
It's all ready. Bleep, 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 bleep. Bop.
Wait a minute. What was that again?
In case you don't know, Dove, that's Bob.
Where did you ever pick up Bob?
I was visiting a friend of mine last night, a professor of psychology, over at that institution across the bay.
California?
No, San Quentin. He's a penologist. He played some bop records for me.
Well, what do you think of bop, Rembrandt?
They say it's the latest thing. Why, girl, I can remember when they were playing bop back in 1926.
You can?
Well, certainly. Only in those days they called it Vo-do-do-de-o, Vo-do-do-de-o-do. Here's your tea, Dove. It's warm.
Thanks.
What brings you by this afternoon, Candy, dear?
You. I've got an invite to a ball for both of us.
How delightful. I'll get my Grand Marshal's uniform out of me trunk.
It's not that kind of a ball, Ducky. It's just a dance for soldiers at Fort Ord.
Fort Ord? That's down in Monterey.
That's right. And I want you to go along as my chaperone.
Candy, I'd really love it.
Good. I'll pick you up at noon tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have an appointment at 2. You run along, and I'll get the Del Monte special.
Okay, and I'll pick you up at the station in Monterey.
Splendid, splendid. Oh, by the way, dear, I'm just a little...
Oh, sure. Here, take 20.
Oh, no, not that much, Candy.
No. Yourself, I insist.
Oh, I'm so glad you're firm about these things. Thanks ever so much.
Not at all. Thanks for the tea, Rembrandt. I'll see you in Monterey. I gave Rembrandt a little chuck under the chin. He quivered his bushy eyebrows, and I left. If I was going to be queen of a military ball, I had to get some royal raiment. I picked up a mantilla and a strapless evening gown you had to hold up by sheer concentration and deep breathing. Then I had a quiet dinner for 1, please, James, and went home and climbed aboard the Dream Express quite early. When I woke up, I had the nasty feeling that I had something to do. Then I remembered. I had a date that evening with Mallard. That's Inspector Ray Mallard of San Francisco Homicide. The nomenclature reads 6'2", weight 190, nice features, smart guy when it comes to solving a crime, but when it comes to talking about us and the future, he freezes up completely. I got dressed and whipped down to the Hall of Justice on Kearny Street.
Well, Candy, how's Telegraph Hill's greatest lady detective?
At the moment, Mallard, dear, I'm just between detectives.
Kind of slow, huh?
No, not slow. I just wrapped up a case. Now I want to take it easy for a few days.
I've got news for you, Candy.
Such as like what?
Such as like I can't keep our date for tonight.
Oh, Mallard, I'd been counting on it.
I know, Candy. I'm sure sorry. But how did I know this guy was going to do what he did out in the Taraval district?
Playing straight, I say. What did the guy do out in the Taraval district?
He parlayed a sudden impulse into a seat in the gas chamber.
How so?
He done in his old lady.
Mallard, don't talk like that.
Okay. He ostracized his wife from the world of the living. With a pipe.
That's better.
Over the head.
I get the picture. Anyway, I've got news for you, too.
And yours would be?
I'd have to break our date tonight anyway.
Uh-huh. I just knew I was going to get stood up. And tonight's the night that Tex Acuff is playing in Loves of Laredo. Candy, it's Acuff's best movie.
Acuff will just have to keep his chin up. You're busy in the Taraval, and I've got to be at a dance at the NCO club at Fort Ord.
Oh, that's right. I am busy tonight. So you're going to Fort Ord, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't you there a couple of times during the war?
That's right. With the USO.
That same sergeant still there?
The same sergeant. He's the one who asked me tonight.
Now, this calls for drastic action. Come here, Candy.
Mallard. It was one of those rare moments. Mallard kissed me. Part of me floated out of his office. Then part of me floated back in and picked up the rest of me. Then all of me floated out again. Then I realized I'd forgotten my hat. I went back and got it. Then I saw I didn't have my purse. I went back and got that.
Keep this up and you won't even get past Market Street, let alone to Fort Ord.
That Mallard, he can do the sweetest things sometimes. That was one of them. I got in the car, shifted into low, and that's the last I remember until I came to in front of the Rancho in Carmel. Obviously, one kiss from Mallard was better than a tank full of 100-proof octane. I registered, got a cabana out and back, showered, changed, and drove back into town. The drive down must have been dusty because I was extremely dry. So I stopped at Griff's, a cute little place with old theatrical pictures all over the walls.
Yes, miss. Would you care for something?
Oh, yes, a martini, please. Very dry.
Very dry. Righto.
You're new here, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I started working here about 3 weeks ago.
I thought so. I was down about a month ago, but I don't remember seeing you.
No, the fellow who was here became ill. Mr. Griffin hired me.
Nice place to work.
Oh, yes. It's very enjoyable. Here you are, miss.
Thank you. I know you don't know who I am, but I'm a very good friend of Mr. Griffin's, and I came away without any money. Could you cash a check for me?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to, but do you have any identification with you?
Oh, yes, of course. Here, my driver's license.
Matson. Candy Matson.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know why I thought I recognized you. Aren't you presiding over the dance tonight at Fort Ord?
Well, yes. Why?
I saw your picture in the paper yesterday.
Yesterday? What? I only knew about it myself Oh, that Kenley, what an operator.
I'll be happy to cash your check, Miss Matson.
Good. I'm going to need it. A queen has to scatter a little gold amongst her subjects. The lad cashed my check and I left for the fort. I drove out past Seaside, then on past Ord Village and onto the reservation itself. The guard motioned me through the south gate with a wave of his hand and a... Yep, still the same old Fort Ord. I wove my way through the streets and finally pulled up in front of the senior NCO club. As I got out, there was my pal Kenley coming down the steps, in his fatigues yet.
Oh, Candy, you beautiful thing, you.
Don't you beautiful thing me, Sergeant Kenley.
What's the matter?
You know what's the matter. They printed a picture of me in the Monterey Herald yesterday.
Well, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong? When the paper came out yesterday, I hadn't even heard about your wing-ding tonight.
Oh, don't be mad, Candy. I've never seen you say no to a worthwhile cause yet.
This is a worthwhile cause?
That's right. Every cent we take in, we're turning over to the community chest.
Oh, well, that puts a different light on it.
Oh, I knew you'd see it that way.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. You don't charge for these NCO dances. How are you getting any proceeds out of it?
Oh, I didn't tell you, did I? Every half hour we're having a raffle. The highest bidder gets a free dance. With you.
Oh, that Kenley. Well, it was getting dark, and the Del Monte special with Rembrandt aboard would soon be pulling in. So I went back to Monterey. All of a sudden, I decided to play games. About a mile from town, the train stops at Del Monte itself. I thought it might be cute if I went back, got on the train there, and met Rembrandt that way. There she was, coming right in on schedule. I parked the car and went over to the little country-like station. The train wasn't in sight yet. It has to make the bend around Seaside. There it was. Now the headlight was sending its beam down the shining rails. It stood out like a beacon in the Monterey twilight. Then I saw it. The glare of the locomotive's light picked up the crumpled body of a man. It was stretched across the tracks in a grotesque manner. Suddenly my mind flash signaled my feet, and I moved. It was a man, all right. The train was getting closer. I grabbed him by his lead-like shoulders and tugged. He wouldn't budge. I tried again, but still no luck. I looked down in desperation. That's when I saw that one of his feet was jammed between the rail and a tie. I gave a yank, and the foot came free. Then I grabbed him by the shoulders again. He must have weighed over 200, but little by little I was getting his body over the rails and off under the shoulder. Finally, I made it, just as the Del Monte rolled by. The body had fallen over on top of me as I pulled him away from the rails. I shoved him to one side, and he flopped over. As he did so, I realized my companion was very cold, very limp, and very dead. A card fell out of his pocket, and I did the natural thing and picked it up. By that time, the train was pulling out. I tried to catch it, but it was too late. It was only a mile into Monterey, so I left my cold friend and drove in after the train. I got snarled in a traffic jam just before I made the right turn into the station, so Rembrandt was waiting for me as I drove up.
Dove, how nice of you, right on time.
Never mind the salutations. Come on, we've got work to do.
Don't tell me I'm supposed to take your place at the ball tonight.
No. I've discovered a body.
Candy, dear, how occupational.
How irritational. Come on, let's go.
Where?
Monterey Sheriff's Office.
But you'll miss the ball, girl.
Not tonight, I won't. I darn near got killed myself. Tonight I'm going to have fun. Let's go. I went over to the sheriff's office. They have a staff of 9 men. I placed everything in their capable hands and drove Rembrandt over one of the local hotels. I went back to the rancho, climbed into my strapless queen outfit, and went back to pick him up. He came out with a bewildered look on his face. I didn't say anything. We drove along through the Ord reservation, and finally I popped the question. Okay, Rembrandt, what's wrong?
Nothing, except this.
What's this?
A card. While I was dressing, a man knocked on me door, shoved this into me hand, and told me to tell you about it, and left.
Let me see it.
Here. Oh, careful, Dove. Don't go off the road. The military wouldn't like that. They dislike messy forts.
Wait a minute. Look through my purse, Rembrandt.
Precisely for what?
For a card that matches this one.
Lipstick, lighter, handkerchief. Oh, here we are. You're right, Candy. It matches exactly. Does it make sense?
Not yet. This is a warning, Rembrandt. A warning to keep my nose out of somebody's business.
Yes, but what's this on the card? I don't understand.
I thought you were studying the cello, Rembrandt, dear.
Oh, I am.
Then you should know what that is. That's the musical signature for F sharp. The gent who gave Rembrandt the card had obviously been following us since we left the sheriff's office. Now I knew I was in on something. But what? That body didn't crawl on the tracks all by itself. It was placed there deliberately in hopes the train would mangle all evidence. I'd have to worry about that later. I had a date to keep, and I was going to keep it. Once again, I pulled up in front of the Senior Non-Commissioned Officers Club. Rembrandt helped me out, and we went in. The joint was really jumping. As we went in, dear old Sergeant Kenley was there to greet us.
Oh, Candy. Oh, glad you're here. I was getting worried.
Ha, ha, ha. He's worried.
Yes. Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, ha, ha. I don't get it.
That's all right, Sergeant. Kenley, I want you to know Rembrandt Watson, my chaperone this evening.
You're... Oh, glad to know you, sir.
You needn't talk down to me, Sergeant. I have campaign ribbons for just such battles as this.
Okay, Kenley. When do we start the raffle?
Right now. Come on, Candy.
If ever a girl gave her all for the army, that was I. I danced until my insteps had insteps. Going on toward midnight, they started another raffle. A dark-looking sergeant bid $6, and I was to dance with him. Rembrandt was fighting the Boxer Rebellion all over again with some top kick, so I was stuck, but good.
Miss Matson, that was my last $6.
You shouldn't have done it, Sergeant.
Ah, it was worth it. But if you don't mind, I'd rather not dance.
Sergeant, for those kind words, I make you a lieutenant.
No, thanks. I'd rather be a sergeant. But would you mind walking outside on the terrace? It's awfully stuffy in here.
Sergeant, it would be a pleasure, believe me. We went outside. The night was strictly moderage, sparkling with stars, not warm, not cold, and a slight smell of sardines in the air. That's good. That meant the canneries were working. But speaking of the smell of fish...
Let's go this way, shall we?
Why?
There's a beautiful view of the entire bay from over here.
Look, Sergeant, I only came down here to dance...
I said come with me.
What? You're hurting my arm. Now, wait just a minute, Sergeant.
No, you wait, Candy Matson. I know who you are. You had to come down here where you weren't wanted.
You don't seem to understand
You
that
had
I
to go
was...
find a body on the tracks, and you ended up with 2 cards that were identical, didn't you? Give me those 2 cards.
I haven't got them.
Don't give me that. Where are they?
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't got any cards.
Okay, sister, you asked for it.
The sky was whirling. Time was nothing. I was in China. I was in Cuba. I was nowhere. Suddenly, things came into focus. I was out in back of the club, and Rembrandt and half a dozen GIs were standing over me.
There, Ducky. You're going to be all right. What happened?
I got slugged, that's what happened. And the rat only bid $6 for the privilege.
How do you feel, Dow?
Terrible.
Oh, Candy, I feel terrible, too. I don't know how this could have happened.
Hi, Kenley. Oh, my head.
Oh, gee, I just can't apologize enough.
That's all right. I came down here to be queen of the ball. I got crowned, didn't I? I thanked Sergeant Kenley for the party. It was a nice affair. After all, it was no fault of the NCO Club or Fort Ord that I got rapped over the head. So I got Rembrandt in the car, and we drove back into Carmel. Rembrandt was quite concerned. He suggested that we stop and I have a touch of brandy. I didn't argue. We went into grips.
Good evening. You wish something?
Yes, please. Brandy for the lady. Lemon Coke for me.
Brandy and... What was that again?
A glass of water.
A glass of water again.
Hold it. You weren't here this afternoon.
No, I work the evening shift. Frankie's here during the afternoon.
Frankie?
That's right. Frankie Sharp.
That's when Roman candles went off and bells started to ring. Thinking back to the afternoon, the guy who cashed my check had one slight characteristic. I remembered as he handed me the money, his cufflinks were stamped musically, F sharp. I must have had a funny look on my face because Rembrandt spoke.
What's the matter, dear? Doesn't the brandy agree with you?
No, it's not that. I'm trying to put 1 and 1 together to make 2, but it doesn't add.
Uh-oh. Looks like we're going to have company.
Pardon me, Miss Matson. I hope I'm not intruding.
Not at all, Corporal. Everybody's getting into the act tonight. Sit down and make yourself comfortable.
Oh, thank you. I just heard the regrettable news. You getting slugged at the club. I left just before, I guess. How did it happen?
He was a sergeant. He outranked me.
Oh, incidentally, my name is Case. Dave Case. 4th MP Company at the fort.
Glad to know you, Case. This is Mr. Rembrandt Watson.
Oh, how do you do?
How do you do, sir? Where's your accoutrement?
What?
Your billy club and pistol, your armband, and so on.
I don't wear them when I'm not on duty, Mr. Watson.
Well, you're in good hands, Candy. I've got to leave. Can't stand a place where they only serve you water.
That's what you asked for, Rembrandt.
I know. Yield not to temptation, I always say. I do bet you, Corporal Case. Good night, Candy, dear. See you in the morning. You two just stay and talk over the Battle of the Bulge, that knob on Candy's head.
Good night, Rembrandt.
Does he always duck out on you like that, Miss Matson?
He's a man of whims. That's why I like him. This brandy isn't doing anything for me. What I need is some air. Corporal, do me a favor and walk me down to the beach and back, will you?
Why, I'd be delighted.
We left Griff's and walked down Ocean Avenue to the beach. There was a half moon shining down from the east and hitting the waves. It made the ocean look almost luminous.
Feel a little better, Miss Matson?
Yes. I wonder what that character hit me with. Come on, Corporal. Let's go along the beach a little way.
Aren't you cold?
No, this is fine. Wait. Wait a minute, Case.
What?
Down there. Right at the water's edge. Looks like the body of a man.
Why, you're right.
Let's go. We ducked around a clump of brush and hightailed it down to the water. Sure enough, it was the sprawled figure of a man. Every time a wave came in, the body would change position, setting new patterns of crumpled legs and oddly shaped arms. Give me a hand, Case. Help me roll him over.
Okay.
There. Hey, look at this.
What, Miss Matson?
Do you know who this joker is? This is the lad who flattened my skull at the dance tonight.
Yeah, I'll bet he's awfully sorry he did it now. He's quite dead.
The corporal and I pulled and tugged and finally got the boy high and dry up on the beach. Then we ran up to my cabin. Operator. They must have closed the switchboard for tonight.
Well, you wait here, Miss Matson. I'll run up into town. There's usually a prowl car there at this hour.
Okay, but hurry, Corporal. Case slammed out the door and I was left alone. I walked over to the cabinet, got a cigarette and lit it. Thoughts were going through my head like a roulette wheel, but none of the thoughts were dropping in the right slot. Then suddenly... Did you ever get the feeling you weren't alone? That a pair of eyes was watching your every move? I wheeled around. There he was, standing over by the closet door.
Good evening.
My bartender friend of the afternoon.
Enjoying your cigarette, Miss Matson?
Yes. Yes, I am, Mr. Sharp.
Fine. Drag on it. Drag deeply. The last drag always tastes the best.
What's on your mind?
You've been on my mind ever since you pulled that body off the tracks this evening.
Was that one of your jobs?
Oh, yes. Hadn't you surmised by my musical signature?
Wasn't that being rather dramatic?
I don't think so. All great artists sign their work. Why shouldn't I? I came here to paint. But they only laughed at me, jeered. So I decided to paint in a different manner. It was beginning to pay dividends, too. But you and the others, you had to spoil it. I could have been big. You understand? I could have owned this whole country.
Oh, no, Frankie. You leave too many of your cards around.
Recognition. There has to be recognition for everything done in this world. Look. Here. I've got another F-sharp card, Miss Matson.
So I see.
I made it especially for you. About an hour ago.
Is that when you held your pal's head under the surf down there on the beach?
Shortly after, yes. And now I shall have to work fast, won't I? Your corporal friend with the muscles will be returning with the police. Over there against the wall, Miss Matson.
You can't get away with this, Frankie.
I think I can. You see, everything I touch must either live or die. In your case, it's too late for the former. So die you must.
Corporal!
Get back, Miss Matson. This guy's nuts.
Looks like I'll have to add another.
Oh!
Corporal, you all right?
Just got me on the shoulder. All right, Mac, try this.
Hang on to his gun arm, Case. I'll try to get him with this lamp.
Never mind that. He's going to drop that gun right now. Oh!
Quick, Corporal, down the hall.
You'd better hold it, Sharp. I'm warning you. Okay, you asked for it.
F sharp was quite flat, there at the bottom of the stairs. N sharp, being flat, was a natural. He looked awfully good that way. All I can say is I am terribly grateful for Fort Ord's highly efficient MPs. Case ducked out to get the police, but halfway down the stairs he heard Sharp's voice in my room. He tiptoed back and listened just long enough outside my door. Just as Frankie had leveled his pistol at my head, Case broke through and wrestled the gun out of Sharp's hand. Oh, the rest of the facts? Well, I've got the dissa and data right here. Frankie Sharp was a wise boy. He was dishonorably discharged from the Army in 1946. He came to the Monterey area with a complete load of Army uniforms, fatigues, and general equipment. He set up a little ring of other ex-GIs with bad records, all dishonorably discharged also, all professional gamblers. On Army paydays, he'd rig his mob out with GI uniforms. Then they'd gang up on the boys from the camp and take them for all their dough with marked cards and loaded dice. The gang was familiar with Army routine, so it was easy for them to make like real soldiers. But Frankie Sharp was keeping too much of the loot for himself, so he decided to set up a new gang. One by one, he had his boys marked for sudden and violent death. The first was the guy I pulled off the tracks. Sharp and the fake sergeant who slugged me were parked up on the highway watching to see the Del Monte special put on the finishing touches. When the gag misfired, they followed me, found out where Rembrandt was staying, slipped them one of their business cards as a warning for me to stay out. But the fake sergeant turned chicken. He didn't want those F-sharp notes all over the area. So he came out to the NCO club, bopped me over the head, and got them back. When he returned, Frankie knew the fat was in the fire and that the time to strike was then. So he took his pal down to the beach, gave him a finger wave and a permanent, the kind you don't wake up from. Then he went back to my cottage to wait for me. Sharp was his own undoing. The poor guy was a megalomaniac and insisted on signing his works of art. His greatest masterpiece, though, was one he autographed. It was called Picture of a Corpse at the Bottom of a Stairway, because when we went down to look at his body, he still had his own F-sharp card clutched in his rigid fingers. Corporal Case? Good boy. He's been studying criminology with the United States Armed Forces Institute. He was discharged about a month later, and because of his considerable amount of gray matter, was promised the first opening with the Monterey Sheriff's Office. Oh, me, it's beautiful around Monterey and Carmel. The soft ocean, the gently rising knolls, especially the one on my head. That's the last time I'm going to be queen of a ball.
Listen again next week at this same time. For excitement and adventure, just dial...
Candy Matson, Yukon 28209.
Heard tonight were John Grover as Sergeant Kenley, Lou Tobin as the pseudo-sergeant, Kurt Martell as Corporal David Case, and Jerry Walter as Frankie Sharp. Henry Leff is Inspector Ray Mallard, and Jack Thomas portrays the role of Rembrandt. The program stars Natalie Masters as Candy and is written and produced by Monty Masters. Eloise Rowan was at the organ, and sound effects were created by Bill Brownell and Jay Rendon. Corporal David C. Case is an actual person. Any resemblance to other people in tonight's play is purely coincidental. The program came to you from San Francisco. This is Dudley Manlove speaking. You are tuned for the stars on NBC.
Welcome back. This was interesting in that it showed how they used the local spots as the site of their mysteries. In this case, Fort Ord. And they even based someone on the actual real-life character of David Case. This was a lot of fun in recapturing that sense of the 1940s, and even that a little bit of the World War II patriotism, which she basically went out there as her patriotic duty to dance and be queen of the ball. Though I don't know whether getting slugged was a bigger detriment to her enthusiasm, or just the wear and tear of having to dance with all of those soldiers. This one, and we'll hear this as well when we play next week's episode as well, with its making use of the local San Francisco celebrities. This was really a hallmark of the way Candy Matson was made. Well, that will do it for today. We will be back tomorrow with Let George Do It. Well, Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so I decided to go ahead and skip a few episodes to get to this week's episode of Let George Do It, which actually aired on ahead of Thanksgiving on November 20th of 1950. So we're going ahead, and we'll get back to the previous order of episodes we were doing next week. But here now is Cause for Thanksgiving.
Personal notice changes my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you've got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details. Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Cause for Thanksgiving, another adventure of George Valentine. Hello?
Dear Mr. Valentine.
What? Hello?
Quiet. I'm 10 years old.
Lieutenant Riley, is that you?
Well, it's not Tom Turkey. Listen, my friend.
You sure it's not? What's that 10-year-old stuff? Hey, you've been jumping the gun on the cranberry sauce?
All right. I'll say it straight. I'm phoning on behalf of a little boy 10 years old.
Well, that's better.
No, it's not. It's worse. Said little boy could no more write you a letter than he could hope to choke. I doubt if he can write.
What's the matter?
He can't talk either.
Huh?
You heard me. I said he can't talk. Oh, I don't mean there's anything wrong with him, or maybe there is. I don't know. But look, Valentine, get over here, will you? Right away to my house.
Well, sure.
But I warn you, friend, this little boy never heard of Thanksgiving. If you're going to help him, you'd better bring your brass knuckles.
Where is he, Lieutenant?
Oh, Mrs. Riley's got him in there trying to coax him to eat. But the only time he'll take a bite is when she's turned her back.
Oh, is he? Where'd you get him?
One of the boys in my department picked him up early this morning at 3 a.m. on the waterfront, the warehouse lane.
Oh, I see. A little on the tough side, huh?
Oh, they all are down there, like a bunch of dirty seagulls and scavengers running loose. We can't even find out who he belongs to.
Maybe nobody. And only 10 years old.
Listen, this sergeant of mine in a squad car nearly runs him down. See, the kid was racing across the empty street, not even looking. Well, Mike gets out to help, naturally. The kid wasn't hurt, but he swung on him. He tried to get away, scared to death, and clawed and scratched. And then Mike realized the kid wasn't talking. Not a sound.
Now, that's the part I don't get. Clear it up, will you, Riley?
Well, Mike couldn't even find out where he lived, so he brought him in. My friends, that boy hasn't spoken one single solitary word since. Hardly a noise out of him. Oh, except maybe to cry a little. Only he stops that when you look at him.
But, Lieutenant, he's probably a mute.
Oh, 2 doctors were out from juvenile hall to look at him. One of them said the kid's faking, but they both agree there's nothing wrong with his vocal cords.
Well, what's the other doctor say?
Psychic shock.
Oh, you mean he can't talk because of something that happened to him?
Well, they're not sure. They say it'll take time to be sure. I've arranged for the hall to take him over to try to find his family, if there is one, to feed him and...
But that takes time, like you say, days, weeks.
Now you get it, pal, and the doc says it'll help him a lot better if we could work fast. Because the most likely thing is that last night he saw something. Was mixed up in something that scared the blue blazes out of him, and he was running away.
Little before 3 a.m. last night, I saw something.
Yeah, but what? Nothing happened down there. Nothing was reported. My department can't just go bursting into a... Huh? Well, hello there, Sonny. Hello. You finally ate something, did you?
Big eye. He listens, but he doesn't listen.
Yeah. Come on in here, son. Come on. These are friends of mine, see? Ah, now, wait a minute. Don't jump like that. I'm not going to fight you. Come on in here and...
Keep it, Riley. What time is it?
Huh?
1:45.
Okay. Hey, look, kid, how about coming with me? I've got an extra ticket to the big football game. Well, I'll get you to meet Big Mike Moralewski, the All-American. Maybe you can even sit on the bench with the team, huh?
George, he's just more frightened. He's crying.
You see? You can't get him interested in anything.
But a boy in a football game? I think the doctor's...
Oh, it's Thanksgiving. I mean, a kid belongs in somebody's home on Thanksgiving. Well, are you going to just sit there, Valentine?
I know, Softy. I know. We've got work to do and fast. Come on, Brooksy. Take the kid's hand. We're going to go straight at this. At the waterfront front. Warehouse Lane. Great place.
Funny, your freight is tied up, but no people.
Ship chambers. You must have spent some time around there, haven't you, kid? How about the candy store?
You're wasting your time, George. It just seems to get more and more tense.
Well, this is where he was picked up, right here.
Oh, relax, son. Don't just sit there
Running
and look...
from right to left, so he must have come from this way. Okay, let's move on a little. Cobblestones by the empty warehouse, huh?
George, look at him. This direction, George, look out for that boy in the street.
He's running right down the street, Jeff, no.
Lovely neighborhood. I wonder if that boy would know anything about our friend here.
Hey, that's an idea. Wait a second. Hey, you, Shorty.
Oh, you want to argue about it? Yeah, jerk nose.
Come here, you.
Hey, let go of me.
Hey, Shorty. Shorty, wait.
George, come here. I'm having an awful time. Hold it.
Oh, look, kid, stop it, will you?
He wants to run too, George.
Yeah, now easy, that's better. Hey, he'll get away from us if I try to catch up with that Shorty. Look, Brooksy, look. There's a settlement house over there. Murphy's. You know him. Take the kid over there and wait for me, will you?
Sure, George. Maybe they'll know something about
I
it.
doubt it. 3 a.m. last night. But farther out there on the pier is where it happened, whatever it was. So me, I'm going to take it on foot by myself. All right, Shorty, I got you this time.
Get your paws off, jerk nose.
Cut it out. Now, cut it out. I just want to ask you something. Ah. You know that other kid I had back in the car there? You know his name?
I never seen him before. I ain't done nothing.
What's your name?
I don't know. Let go.
You kids running loose out here by the ships last night?
I was up on the moon eating cheese. Let me go.
Oh, brother, great tribe, aren't you? Stick together. Never tell anybody anything. Oh, now, look, kid, I'm not a cop or anything. I just want to find...
Hang on to him there. Don't let him loose.
Ah. Oh, no, you don't, Shorty. I got you.
Don't let him loose. There we are. Hold him and let me go through his pockets.
Hey, wait a minute there, Skipper. What are you talking
Box
about?
of cigars. Left them out on deck. Stolen.
I didn't steal
He
them.
hasn't got anything.
No. He's too big anyway. He's not the one.
That's what? Go on, Shorty. Get out of here. You're no help.
I told you, jerk nose. Yeah.
Water rats. Same the world all over. All the same. Good cigars, too. First mate, give them to me so I'd let them stay uptown.
Wait a minute, Skipper. Wait a minute. Were you looking for another kid?
No. Yes.
Something stolen last night, you mean, huh? During the night?
Cigars? No, it's afternoon, a few minutes ago. Come up like rats up on the horses. I tell you, it's awful. Marseille, it was my last port. Same thing, same the world over. Nobody stops them, nobody can stop them.
Hey, wait a minute, Skipper. This your ship tied up here?
Yeah. Leaky old tub full of potatoes. Frenchmen like potatoes.
Uh-huh. Looks about ready to sail. Were you here last night?
What are you peddling? Dope, punchboards, cheap liquor?
No, listen, will you? You have trouble with kids getting aboard, huh?
Characters like you in every port, too. Dock loafers. Always got a deal. Sure, I'm trouble. That's customs pier watchmen. Nobody can stop them. See those big rat guards? Right over them like monkeys.
Did some kids get aboard your ship last night?
No. Now stop pestering me.
Are you sure? Around 3 a.m.?
Fight was on the pier, not the ship.
What fight?
Oh, that's the pier watchman. He's the one spreading the story. A couple of bums, I guess. I don't know. My old deck watch was sound asleep, of course.
You didn't see it?
No. Yeah, I don't know. Woke me up. I yelled, shut up, out of my porthole, went back to sleep.
Hello, the skipper West. I'm so glad to catch you.
Huh?
Oh, what now? A sailor comes ashore.
I'm just going to take a minute. It's about a woman, you see. Oh, that I see, and so nice. But right now, I want to...
Get what I mean? Doc Lope was all trying to sell something. Now it's telephone numbers. Go on, Baldy, get out of here.
Wait a minute. I've seen this guy before.
Well, it's not unusual. Skip, if you just listen
His name's Salvori, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I've seen him in lineups. Are you around here last night?
I beg your pardon.
Oh, it's a great neighborhood. Salvori, the big operator. Last trip he was here selling raffle tickets for a three-wheeled automobile.
Oh, but skipper, listen.
Thanksgiving, they say. Well, thanks and good night. You pester him. I'm going backwards.
Yeah. Look at that, would you? Is that what you wanted to see us about, Salvori? That crowd down at the pier?
Something's
No. I got a note to you to make.
Come on, let's take a look.
Afternoon, friends.
What's going on?
Don't suppose you have 50 cents or so. See, an old pal of mine, he was going to buy me Thanksgiving dinner, you see.
Never mind that. What are those men doing down by the water?
Fishing, sort of. 50 cents is about all it would take, though, you see. Now, this old pal of mine, he would have spent $5, mince pie and the works, Said so last night.
Hey, down there, hey, you!
Now, listen, Buster, did you say last night?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Hey, sailor!
Now, it seems to me that... Hey, look out there!
Salvori!
Well, he left in a hurry, didn't he?
Body, skipper! Got a body! What? Just fishing him out. Guy floating with a knife in him.
Guy float... Yeah. With a knife.
Holy
Yeah, see, that's what I tell you. You see, a pal of mine, he was going to buy me a Thanksgiving dinner, see? Only instead, it looks like he got in a fight about 3 a.m. last night, I figure. Yeah, got murdered, see? So, tell me, how's about the 50 cents?
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. When new RPM motor oil was developed in the laboratory, it was subjected to the most rigidly controlled tests that modern research could devise, and it proved tops, the oil that doubles engine life between major overhauls due to lubrication. The next question was, would it live up to these tests in your car? Tonight you'll hear the answer from the crews of 2 actual test cars in the heart of downtown San Francisco. Following is a special transcription made during the road test period. We switch you to test unit number 1 and research supervisor Carl Watson in San Francisco.
We are making rather slow progress heading west along Market Street. Test unit number 2 is behind us in the traffic. We're driving under the same kind of stop-and-go conditions that you do, the toughest kind on engine wear. It's our job to see if new RPM will back up our laboratory findings. I'll switch you now to research engineer Bob Burchell in unit number 2. He'll tell you about these special cars and the data we are recording from the instruments. Go ahead, Bob. This is Bob Burchell. The engines in this test car and test unit number 1 ahead of us are both equipped with irradiated piston rings, just like those in our laboratory test engines. They also have Geiger counters attached so that we can hear and record wear as it actually takes place. We are making a comparison test. Test Unit 1 is using new RPM, but in this car, we have a well-known conventional oil in the crankcase. It is one of the best premium-type oils. Naturally, I can't reveal its brand name. Now, I'll hold the microphone closer to the Geiger counter, which detects minute particles of metal as they wear off the irradiated piston ring. Hear that rapid clicking? That means a comparatively high rate of engine wear. Now I'll switch you back to Carl Watson for a comparison with new RPM motor oil. Come in, test unit number 1. This is Watson again. You hear that slow click of the Geiger counter? That is an outstanding low wear rate count. It's new RPM under the same conditions as the premium type oil you heard about a moment ago. Day in and day out, mile after mile, the counters have clicked off the same story. The results we got in the laboratory tests on new RPM motor oil are checking out on the road.
Proved in the laboratory, supported in severe road service. That's new RPM motor oil. The oil that cuts in half the wear rate of critical engine parts, doubles engine life between major overhauls due to lubrication. Try it. Sold with a money-back guarantee of satisfaction at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Now, back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine, a boy 10 years old who's been scared to death, who either can't or won't talk. Well, if your name is George Valentine, you begin to understand the reason when you see the neighborhood in which he was picked up by the police. You understand a good deal more when you see that the body of a man has been fished out of the water off the pier. Yes, now it's certainly a case for Lieutenant Riley.
Oh, but what a case. They don't get solved around here, my friend. They just happen.
Okay, Riley. Did your boys pick up that bum, the guy who sniffed?
Oh, he won't know anything. Nobody does. The name of the corpse is Lefty Sims.
Well, you seem to know something.
Well, everybody knew him. He's a common thief, that's all. Few big jobs, but nothing to steal down here. He usually worked the city. This wasn't his territory.
The doc says the time's about right. Been dead since last night, around 3 or 4, maybe. Killed and then tossed in the water. What about the pier watchman?
He covers 5 warehouses. How could he see anything? And everybody off duty for the holiday.
Hey, wait a minute.
Huh?
Riley, what's this stuff?
Where the fight happened? It's a spot of blood, I think.
No, look closer. Powder. Little pieces of broken glass.
What? Hey, here's some more of it.
Yeah. Oh, Doctor.
Huh? Yeah, Doc, come over here, will you?
Yeah, sure, Lieutenant. You thinking what I am, Riley?
Yeah.
What is it?
Hey, here, take a look. White powder. And on a pier where boats...
No, it's not.
Huh?
Talking about dope, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, don't think so.
False alarm, huh, Doc? Well, it might explain why there was a fight, what was going on out here.
Something of value. Yes, of course. Smuggling, you think, huh? Peddling, or...
Yes, I'll do the thinking, Doc. You just tell me...
myosin, perhaps. Something like that. I can run a test.
Oh, my.
Valuable. Didn't I say that? Drug of some kind. Cure people instead of making them sick. Worth a lot more than dope, too. Easier to market.
Yeah, same thing. Only more in the big time.
Did that watchman say there were any kids on the pier last night?
Valentine, I'm trying to get the doc here to talking.
Did the watchman see any kids?
No.
Okay, so long.
Wish I could help you, Miss Brooks.
It's all right, Mr. Murphy. Come on, Sonny.
The settlement house here is pretty badly undermanned. The cleaning woman will be back tomorrow. She might know something about the bar here. But in this neighborhood...
Thanks again. Come on, Sonny. Car's parked over this way.
Brooksy!
Well, it's about time.
Come on, get out of the street, you and the kid.
What?
Never mind, any place. Here, duck in the alley. In this neighborhood, Angel, I don't want to...
Who was that?
I don't know. Packing crates you can't see. He's gone now.
George, what's happened? What's going on?
Simple, Brooksy. Nice, simple case. My guess is the kid here was an eyewitness to murder. It'll be a simple case if he isn't murdered. Oh, kid, please talk. Please tell me, will you? What did you see last night? Look, nobody's going to hurt you. I won't let him. What do you must have seen things like this plenty of times before, kid. I don't mean murder, but you grew up in a tough place. And you're not going to do anybody any good if you just...
Yes, he just cried. George, I'm taking him home. You can solve your own fancy waterfront murders.
Okay, I'll leave him alone. But which one are you covering for, kid? Only a few men around that pier last night. Which one is that important to you? All right, maybe you've given me the answer at that, without talking.
Says you. You admitted you saw your old pal Lefty, didn't you, before he was murdered?
I tell you.
Come on, Riley, along the deck
Now,
here.
look, I promised me a nice Thanksgiving dinner, you see, Lefty does, see? Him past walking up to the pier and never come back.
But didn't he say who he was coming out to meet? Didn't he?
Here we are, Riley. Let's go in here. Hey, Skipper, this your cabin?
What? Oh, no, mine's forward away. It's all right, the owner's cabin. Nobody ever uses it.
Just want a place to talk.
Already said all I'm going to say.
Come on, you two, Skipper. The name is Stogue, isn't it? Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Here's the other one. Bring him in here, Sergeant. Let go, man. Let go.
Mr. Salvori. Now I have to stand rats on my ship, eh?
Picked him up in the neighborhood, Skipper.
That's all for now, Sergeant. What about the kid, Valentine?
Oh, he's all right, Riley. I left him in my car out on the street.
So because my name is Salvori, you think...
You were around here last night, too, weren't you?
Always around. That's stock loafers with deals.
Yeah, but don't try to cover up so much, Skipper.
What?
Now, listen, all of you. We can't find anybody else with a chance of being out here last night but you three.
I was on my ship. Talk to this peddler.
I said don't cover so much. Salvori's a friend of yours.
Sure, everybody's a Salvori's friend.
Except the law. Now, look, this is a smuggle case.
A what? Not on my ship. I've never brought it.
Lefty, the man who was killed, knew his way around the city. Salvori, you're the big waterfront middleman. And, Captain, you've got a boat.
See what I mean? Cops, they got brains.
Enough to spot an ideal setup for smuggling. Captain Stogue, you bring it in. Salvori picks it up, gets it through customs, and Lefty fit it in someplace in the city.
I think you're crazy.
Somebody was waiting a little while ago to waylay Miss Brooks and a kid who was an eyewitness.
Brooks?
Skipper, you're too fat to run down an alley like he did. Sure, I heard his steps. Sniffy just shuffles. So tag, Salvori, you're it. Because now I know why you ran the first time when we saw the body. It's what proves you guys work together.
No, I know you're crazy.
Because on the pier earlier, you came up yelling to the skipper something about a woman. Well, the woman must have been Miss Brooks. You'd seen her with a boy. The witness the two of you have been trying to find. Sure, Skipper, you were looking for boys when I first met you, too, weren't you?
My cigars. That's all, my cigars.
Never mind, Salvori. The kid out there is going to give us the whole story, and a lot straighter than you ever would. Because I finally figured out his whole story.
I never been mixed up in no smuggle.
Sure, and never in a fight or used a knife. Why did you do it? Lefty try a double cross on you, too? You're under arrest for murder, Salvori.
Come on, I'll take him out for you, Riley.
Let go.
You take the other two.
But I'm not mixed up in this.
Material witness. And accessory for you, Captain.
No, please, no.
Come on, out the door. Meet you on the pier, Riley. Here, you, Salvori, wait a second.
Nobody's going to arrest me.
Salvori!
Grab him, you idiot! Hold it!
Come on, there he goes, down the flank.
Yeah, headed farther up on the pier, up toward the warehouse.
Salvori! You think the sergeant saw him?
Yeah, sure. He'll get him all right. Well, that was a nice act.
Yeah, good idea. Now, come on. Car's back the other way.
Yeah. Hey, did you notice that empty cabin on the ship?
Yeah.
Grease stains on the pillow? Empty, huh? I'll bet Salvori's even been traveling with the skipper. Sure, it's a smuggling ring, all right.
Still confused, aren't you, Riley?
Huh?
Oh, it was originally a smuggle, sure. Never mind. You'll never prove anything on this bunch unless you catch him in the act. And, Riley, we're going to do just that.
Well, it's the only car in the street. We're close enough. But it's been 5 minutes already, Valentine. If this hunch of yours is going to pay off, it better start.
Give us time to run the other way, hasn't he?
I don't see how you can...
Oh, no, I didn't expect a gun.
Come on, around the side of the building.
That's my car, Riley. I hope somebody's going to pay for it.
Hold it. There he is.
You're wasting your time, Skipper. The car is empty. You hear me? The kid's uptown. It was a trap, Skipper. The only one who'd stick his neck into our trap is the one who did the stabbing, right? The one who has to get rid of the kid, the witness. So we don't even need to ask the kid now, do we?
Look out! I got him.
John's still at the hospital, George. He says he'll get his confession since that's in Stoke, all right.
Keep it down, will you? The kid's in there. I'm trying out a system. We write each other notes. What about the smuggle stuff, those drugs? They searched the ship yet?
Yes, they've already found some drugs hidden, but I don't understand. What did you say, writing notes?
What don't you understand? How the smuggle works? With a thief, a middleman, and a skipper involved? The drugs that couldn't be sold in this country except through the proper channels? It would sell for a fortune in Europe or on the black market?
Oh, you mean it was to be smuggled out of the country?
Mm-hmm, that's right, Brooksy. And Lefty, the guy who was killed, stole the drugs and delivered them last night. But he got a knife instead of a payoff. And the kid saw it.
George, you mean the boy talked? He's all right?
I guess he will be. See, I was afraid he was, well, maybe the skipper's son or something.
Yeah, I know. But psychic shock, his refusal to talk.
But he's not. He's only known him for a few weeks. Kid didn't even know where he fitted into the plan until a few days ago.
Oh, George, for heaven's sake.
He doesn't have any parents, Brooksy. Just a waterfront kid. But not nearly as tough as he acts. What's missing in the smuggle setup? There's customs on the other side, you know. Who gets the goods into the other country, off the ship?
The boy? You mean he was a part of it?
Nobody can stop him all over the world. Up and down like monkeys. Perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you'd been with me, you should have noticed. Empty cabin on the ship with grease stains on a pillow. But Salvori is bald. We better buy some shampoo for that kid, by the way.
He was aboard that ship.
Yeah, he saw the captain go ashore to meet Salvori and Lefty. He saw the murder. Then he broke out and got away.
George, let me talk to him. This ridiculous business of writing notes...
Oh, sure, he'll talk now. Just been scared to death, that's all. All he wanted was to be happy. He was expecting to be happier than he'd ever been before.
George, if you don't stop playing clairvoyant...
Well, the captain's the only one who could have brought the kid. Therefore, made him afraid, made him run ashore. Therefore, Brooksy, the skipper was it. Well, don't you remember how the kid reacted when I asked him to go to a football game? Just puzzled?
George, he is writing.
Sure he is. Gives me more time to look the words up in the dictionary.
Hello, Mademoiselle. Oh!
Sure, Angel. That's why I wouldn't talk before. He wants to stay in this country. Afraid we'd find him out. He's from Marseille. He's French.
Oui, Marseille. Mais j'aime l'Amérique. Et monsieur, il dit que... Hey! Friends. Here, give me the pencil. And the dictionary. You think you could stand a turkey dinner, George? Turkey? Oui.
You see? One language. I guess it is Thanksgiving, isn't it? And now we got a pilgrim on our hands, Angel. A hungry little pilgrim.
Tonight, earlier in the program, you heard how road tests jibed with laboratory results in the development of new RPM motor oil. You have been taken step by step along the path followed by our scientists in bringing you this new oil years ahead of its time. From the first survey to determine what the ideal motor oil should be, through the ultimate proof in an automobile engine, you've heard the new RPM story firsthand. Now discover it yourself, firsthand. It's sold with a money-back guarantee of satisfaction at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Daly is starred as George with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Wally Mayer is Lieutenant Riley. Alan Reed was heard as Stogue. Dick Ryan as Sniffy. Anthony Barrett as Salvori. Jeffrey Silver as Shorty. And Stephen Chase as the Doctor. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. Your community chest helps care for homeless and neglected children in your own neighborhood. Community Chest Child Care Centers operate year-round. This year, make sure you give enough to your community chest to help all year. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this was a good episode, and I did not at all guess the idea of the boy speaking a foreign language, which made perfect sense when it came out in the end. The Thanksgiving connection was not overly strong, so we could have enjoyed it had we played it later on in the year. But since they went to the trouble to write a script and include some Thanksgiving subtext, I thought I'd go ahead and include that as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday. And I hope you have a great Thanksgiving with your family. But we do have quite a few followers over on Twitter, 156 now. And Tara tweets in that she is listening to Rogues Gallery on our podcast. Well, thanks so much to Tara. Should be caught up with us in a few weeks. Well, enjoy a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. And also tomorrow we'll bring you a helping of Sherlock Holmes. And then next Wednesday we'll go back to the normal order for Let George Do It. Well, this episode of The Great Detectives of Old Time Radio is brought to you by the great financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support. It's truly appreciated. I want to wish everyone in the United States who's listening, or Americans abroad as well, a happy Thanksgiving. And your helping of great detectives today is an episode of Sherlock Holmes. It's called Professor Moriarty and the Case of the Diamond Jubilee.
From New York, the makers of Clippercraft clothes for men and 924 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character of Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes is portrayed by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley, and the dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. Well, here we are again in front of Dr. Watson's cheery fireplace. A bitter December wind makes us glad to be inside, toasting our toes and listening to a Sherlock Holmes adventure. What's it to be tonight, Dr. Watson?
Well, now, let me see. Tonight I think I'll tell you how Holmes' arch enemy, the diabolical Professor Moriarty, came close to disrupting the Queen's Diamond Jubilee festivities.
You mean the celebration that marked the 60th year of the reign of Queen Victoria?
Right. On that occasion, London was a mecca for adventurers and thieves, drawn by the many visiting potentates and notables, all wearing their most fabulous jewels and elegant trappings. Oh, by the way, speaking of glad rags, as you Yankees call it, aren't you, rather dressy yourself tonight, Mr. Harris?
I wondered how long before you'd notice my new suit, Dr. Watson.
Not bad. Stand up, let's have a look. Yes, not bad at all. Is it...
You mean, is it a Clippercraft suit? You bet it is, Doctor.
Now I know why my friends say Clippercraft means what the well-dressed man will wear if he wants to get his money's worth. Yes, I wonder if I spoke to Santa Claus, I'd find something like that in my stocking, eh?
All I can say is there's nothing the average male would rather find under the Christmas tree than a Clippercraft suit.
But the mystery to me is, how do they manage to turn out that handsome rig at the price?
Well, Dr. Watson, that mystery doesn't take a Sherlock Holmes to solve. Here's how Clippercraft makes it easy for a man to look his best on Christmas morning and hundreds of mornings thereafter. It's through the Clippercraft plan, which concentrates the buying power of 924 leading stores across the nation, making tremendous savings in manufacturing and distribution costs. The plan brings you the finest clothes at prices far less than you expect to pay at your own local independent store, at the store you can trust. Beautifully tailored Clippercraft suits are only $40 and $45. Top coats and overcoats are only $40. Yes, indeed. The friends who drop in on Christmas Day will think your clothes cost twice as much. For Clippercraft values are so amazing, we urge you to compare them with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now, Dr. Watson, supposing we get back to Her Majesty's Diamond Jubilee and the gentleman who tried to spoil the celebration.
Yes, well, all London was on fete, Mr. Harris. The festivities were endless. Garden parties, concerts, parades. The entire city was in a holiday mood. All but my friend Sherlock Holmes. He had drawn the blinds to shut out the brilliant spring sunshine and lay moping on the sofa, morosely pulling apart the tassels of his ancient dressing gown. For heaven's sake, Holmes, buck up and stop strewing bits of silk all over the carpet. You look as if you were molting. Everyone else is overjoyed at the celebrations.
Leave me alone. I'm having my own private celebration.
Oh, what are you celebrating in this particularly lugubrious fashion?
Watson, do you realize it's just 6 years since Professor Moriarty and I pushed each other into the Reichenbach Falls? He never came back, poor chap.
Well, you're not going to tell me you're sorry you finally rid society of that monster.
No, I suppose not. But think what an occasion of this sort would have meant to him. Theaters and ballrooms fairly dripping with jewels. Intrigue and cabals on every street corner. What a veritable El Dorado for a master criminal like Professor Moriarty. And what's happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, you might give Scotland Yard some credit. They've been working night and day to protect the holidaymakers.
Scotland Yard? How would Scotland Yard have prevailed against a mastermind like Moriarty? Yes, the one antagonist I ever found who is my mental equal. Army.
Oh, well, you forget if you hadn't finished him, he'd have finished you. You ought to thank your lucky stars he's gone instead of moping about like a dying duck.
See what it is, Watson. That's a good fellow.
Inactivity, that's what's wrong with you, Holmes. If you're engaged in any normal occupation, you... Oh, yes. Oh, thanks, Mrs. Hudson. There's a letter for you, Holmes. Mrs. Hudson says it was delivered by hand.
Probably some female whose pet poodle has eloped with someone else's spaniel. I'm not interested.
Purple letter paper addressed in a large, scrawling hand. There's a strange sort of crisscross in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope.
What's that? Watson, give me that envelope.
Well, all right, you needn't snatch it out of my hand.
By all that's holy, that's not a double crisscross, it's a letter M. Watson, it's Professor Moriarty's handwriting.
Oh, you're off your head, Holmes. This Moriarty business has become an obsession, an idée fixe. You'd better go out in the fresh air and get some exercise, or you'll be imagining that you see him...
Shut up, Watson, and listen to this. To the world's greatest detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, warning. At least he doesn't underrate me, Watson?
Oh, go to blazes.
You will doubtless be astounded to learn I am alive. I managed to survive our little personal encounter in Switzerland, not without sustaining physical damage which kept me in the hospital for over a year. The remainder of the time which has intervened since we last met has been spent in building myself a new organization. You destroyed my last one, if you remember. I shall not soon forgive you for that. You doubtless look on yourself as society's protector. You are wrong.
Oh, I like that.
Don't interrupt, Watson. The more I am thwarted, the greater is my thirst for revenge on society. I have held my hand long enough. From today forward, look out for me. I shall begin this afternoon by staging a daring jewel robbery in the Strand. Tonight, a certain lady at the command performance in Albert Hall will lose her famous emeralds. Tomorrow and the day after, I shall perpetrate some new outrage.
Oh, he's ranting like a madman.
And last but not least, you and your colleague, Dr. Watson, will be put out of the way.
What?
I take pleasure in advising you of the fact that your hepatudinous friend, Dr. Watson, will be the first to go. Signed, Moriarty.
So I'm to be the first. It doesn't frighten me, the old babble-headed blowhard. Oh, I say, Holmes, what is hepatudinous?
Hepatudinous, my dear Watson, means rather blunted mentally.
Oh, it does it?
What's happening at Albert Hall tonight, Watson?
I believe it's a concert by Adelina Patti. Everyone will be there. You weren't thinking of attending, I suppose.
Why not, Watson? Why not? You might tell Mrs. Hudson to shake the camphor out of our evening clothes. I wonder if I have a clean, stiff shirt.
Oh, dash it all, these...
Seems to be the difficulty, Watson.
Oh, everything's shrunk. My collar, my waistcoat, even my evening pumps. Why is it when anything's laid away in mothballs for a few months, it inevitably comes out a size smaller?
It couldn't be because you've grown a size larger, I suppose.
Oh, shut up. There, you see? You see what happens when I lose my temper?
What?
I just popped another button.
I suggest you descend to the kitchen and allow Mrs. Hudson to repair the damage.
Oh.
Now what?
This sounds like one of your confounded clients.
Don't worry, I'll get rid of him in short order. Better take the back stairs down to the kitchen, Watson. You don't want to be caught in disarray in case the client is a lady.
Oh, good Lord.
Flowers that bloom in the spring, tra-la. Come in.
Mr. Holmes, Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yes?
I am Hector Pomfret, of Pomfret and Smog. We're the best-known jewelers in London, Mr. Holmes. By appointment to His Highness, the Prince of Wales, no less.
Of course. Of course. You have a shop in the Strand and you've just been robbed.
But, Mr. Holmes, how did you know? It happened less than an hour ago.
My dear Mr. Pomfret, I have rather special sources of information.
It's incredible. I haven't informed anyone, not even the police. You see, some of the stolen jewels weren't my property. Lady Biddlesford's pearls, for instance. She said they'd be restrung. Then, of course, the great Burmese ruby. I had that on consignment. I practically sold it to that wealthy Mrs. Tecumseh Jones from Denver. Oh, it'll ruin my business if they're not recovered.
Pity.
But it's outrageous that such a thing should be allowed to happen in a civilized country. And in broad daylight.
What's happened in broad daylight?
Lestrade, where did you come from?
And what in thunder do you mean bursting in on us like this?
Mr. Pomfret, I understand you've been burgled. I've come to see about it. I'm Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard.
Well, I don't want you. Go away.
You may not want me, Mr. Pomfret, but your partner, Mr. Smog, does. He's the one that sent for me. He told me where you'd popped off to, so I came round to make sure you didn't get any bad advice.
Thank you, Lestrade, for the vote of confidence. And now suppose you sit here quietly while Mr. Pomfret tells me just what occurred.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I was in the shop alone. It was getting late and I was about to lock up when a nice, respectable, youngish man walked in the door. He wore a Prince Albert, carried a silver-headed Malacca stick, a small black satchel, and had just the suggestion of a limp.
Pardon me, you're Mr. Pomfret, I believe.
Why, yes. Is there something I can do for you, sir? I was on the point of locking up, but if there's anything
No, nothing very important, I'm afraid. I've just broken the crystal of my watch. I'm a doctor, you see, and my watch is a rather important bit of equipment in my profession.
Of course, I understand. Well, I'll see if we have a crystal to fit. If you don't mind waiting a moment?
No, not at all. I'd amused myself by looking at the handsome baubles in this showcase here.
They're more than baubles, I assure you, Mr.
Watson, Dr. Watson.
Well, that ruby in the middle is worth a king's ransom, as they say.
Really?
Oh, yes, here we are. This crystal's perfect fit. Just a slight bit of pressure, so, and there we are. Here's your watch, Dr. Watson. The charge will be 2 shillings.
Keep the watch. It served its purpose. I prefer the ruby and the other baubles.
What do you mean?
Stand back or you'll be cut by flying glass.
But, Dr. Watson, put down that cane. Oh, stop him. I'm being robbed. Stop, thief. Stop. Quick as a flash, he'd snatched the contents of the showcase, ran out the door, and was lost in the crowds.
Showing no signs of a limp, I take it, Mr. Pomfret.
Why, no, Mr. Holmes. The limp certainly wasn't evidence as he ran out of the shop.
Leaving his watch behind?
Yes, I brought it with me. I've heard you can deduce a man's entire history from his watch. Well, here it is.
Interesting. Very interesting.
The thing that interested me about Mr. Pomfret's story was the thief's name. Watson. Dr. Watson.
My dear Lestrade, you don't suppose any jewel thief is going to be foolish enough to give his right name?
I'm not so sure. What did he look like, Mr. Pomfret?
Oh, I don't know. Not bad looking. A bit above medium height. Military moustache. Slightly grey at the temples.
Yeah, I think that'll hold if I don't take a deep breath. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, as a matter of fact, the thief looked very much like... Oh, no, by Jove. He was this gentleman who just came in.
Well, what thief are you talking about now? Oh, good evening, Lestrade. How's the Scotland Yard's prize watchdog, eh? Holmes, my watch. Where on earth did you find it?
Where you left it, Dr. Watson, in my shop, when you smashed my showcase and made off with a Burmese ruby, not to mention Lady Biddlesford's pearls.
Holmes, what's the man raving about?
As if you didn't know. So, you turned thief, eh, Dr. Watson? This association with Sherlock Holmes is responsible, no doubt. I've always suspected you two worked both sides of the street.
What's this all about, Holmes? Has everyone gone mad?
I think I can explain the confusion, Watson.
You'll not talk your way out of it this time, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. We've got the goods on your friend, Dr. Watson. Mr. Pomfret has made a positive identification. I've been looking forward to using these handcuffs on you chaps.
For heaven's sake, Lestrade, sit down and try not to be a bigger fool than the Lord intended. It's also perfectly simple. Here, read this letter I received this morning and see if you can comprehend what danger we're really in.
It'll take more than a letter.
Shut up and read it. Now then, Watson, when did you first miss your watch?
Why, let me see it. It was this morning when I wanted to take Mrs. Hilton's pulse. I was positive I slipped it into my pocket when I dressed this morning, but I suppose I left it behind on the bureau. I sometimes do, you know.
No, Watson, you took it with you. Remember you told me the times you were about to leave?
That's right. So I did, but then how did it get here?
The watch was lifted from your pocket by one of the light-fingered gentry in Moriarty's employ. Later this afternoon, it was used by another gentleman who impersonated you and robbed the jewelry shop of Mr. Pomfret here, leaving the watch behind to incriminate you.
Why, the blackguard, the filthy blackguard. Why, I've been in the entire afternoon. Why, you can give me an alibi, Holmes.
Naturally, he's in coats.
If you won't believe me, Lestrade, perhaps you'll take Mrs. Hudson's word. She spent the afternoon letting out Dr. Watson's dress shirt and fitting it to his person.
But this is incredible, fantastic. The thief was exactly like your friend, Mr. Holmes.
All this hanky-panky about Professor Moriarty and his outfit. I've never even seen the man. How do I know there is such a person?
We'll just have to take my word for it, Lestrade. Incidentally, we shall miss the first part of the concert at Albert Hall unless we hurry.
Oh, good Lord, and I have to rush home and dress. I'm sitting in Mrs. Tecumseh Jones's box, you know.
Who cares? I shall have to go to keep an eye on those blasted tiaras, I suppose. Ha! I hate music.
I know, but you wouldn't want to miss the professor's next robbery. Come along, Lestrade. Yes, Watson, I think we shall station ourselves here at the foot of the grand staircase.
Whose emeralds do you think Moriarty's after?
I don't know. It could be the Maharani of Saiba, or the Bolivian millionairess, Senora Boldaro. Ah, here comes Lestrade. He looks agitated. What's up, Lestrade? Anyone purloined the crown jewels?
These stupid women. Already Baroness von Ockfeld has lost an expensive brooch, and 2 of Madame de Roncesvalles' diamond bracelets are missing.
Sounds as if Moriarty's minions were warming up for the main event.
Rubbish. It's these fool females. Never make sure the catches are properly closed.
By Jove, Holmes, look. Look at that enormous red-headed woman coming in the carriage entrance. She looks like an animated Christmas tree. That's enough to blind you.
Yes, that's Mrs. Tecumseh Jones, the American. She has more jewels than most of the crowned heads of Europe.
Yes, and most particularly, she has an emerald necklace that makes the Maharanis and the Senoras look like something at the vicar's tea party.
I say, look who's beside her, the little pipsqueak.
Yes, it's Mr. Rector Pomfret, so he didn't keep her waiting after all.
Must be a quick change artist, eh, Watson?
She seems to be giving him what for. Here they come.
Lestrade, I suggest you precede them to her box while Dr. Watson and I bring up the rear. Those emeralds certainly deserve a guard of honor.
Yes, and I'm pretty mad at you, Pomfret.
But my dear Mrs. Jones.
You knew doggone well I wanted that ruby.
But I assure you, Mrs. Jones, it was stolen.
Stolen in broad daylight. Don't make me laugh. Some other woman offered you a better price, but you're not kidding me.
Dear Mrs. Jones, I assure you the jewel was stolen. Word of honor. Evening, Lestrade.
Good evening.
This is Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard, Mr. Jones. He'll tell you I was robbed.
Look here, Mr. Pomfret. I wonder if you could persuade Mrs. Jones to make sure all her jewel catches are in working order.
Young man, I'm quite capable of taking care of my own affairs. Come on, Pomfret.
Yes, Mrs. Jones.
Hey, get off of my train.
Watson?
I wasn't anywhere near the silly thing.
Well, someone tried to trip me up. Golly, Ned. My necklace! My emerald necklace! It's gone! Somebody stole it! I've been robbed!
Well, how could the dog be stolen when everybody was standing around me?
Here, hold still, everybody. Don't move.
A hand! I felt someone's hand on the back of my neck. Then the necklace was gone. Where did it go to?
Not very far, I assure you. No one has moved. Whoever took it's within arm's reach. Now, I was on one side of you, Mr. Pomfret on the other, and Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson were directly in back.
In back! That's where I felt his hand. On the back of my neck.
It's that Dr. Watson. He robbed my shop, but I let him talk me out of it. You renegade! You blackguard!
Let go of me, you idiot! I didn't touch the emeralds. The silly things probably fell off.
A likely story.
Well, all right, search me if you don't believe it.
I dashed well will.
That's right, search him. What's that bulge in his left-hand pocket?
The emeralds, and more besides. Would this be your ruby, Mr. Pomfret? And Lady, what's-her-name's pearls? Yes, this is the Ockfeld brooch, and the missing diamond bracelets as well.
Quite a haul, Watson. Congratulations.
Does it? Dr. Watson, you're under arrest.
But this is preposterous. It's outrageous. Holmes, don't just stand there like a ninny. For heaven's sake, do something.
What is there to do, my dear Watson? Better go quietly. Yes, as things stand, I think jail may be the safest place for you.
Holmes!
Come in. Ah, Inspector Lestrade. Up and about early, aren't you, after last night's festivities? Patty was in excellent voice, didn't you think?
I didn't listen. I was busy seeing no more jewels were stolen.
Even with Dr. Watson safely under lock and key?
As a matter of fact, Holmes, several other pieces did turn up missing. The Duchess of Wentworth's tiara and Lady Mulder's diamond stomacher.
Oh?
Look here, Holmes. You don't think it's possible those jewels were planted on Dr. Watson?
Lestrade, you astonish me. Every now and then you show signs of intelligence. By the way, I had a further communication from Professor Moriarty this morning. Like me to read it to you?
I don't suppose I could stop you.
Quite. My dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, yesterday's exploits were so successful in spite of my advance warning, I think I shall let you in on my further plans. I rather enjoy watching your feeble attempts to prevent my activities. That's a rap at you, too, you know, Lestrade.
Go on.
I shall arise betimes, but this morning I shall rob the Sailors' and Merchants' Bank. At 9, the Merchants' Guild will receive my attention. At 11:15, I shall relieve Lily Langtry of her sapphires. I shall then take 2 hours off for lunch. The music at the Savoy is so refreshing, you know. At 2, Baroness Traphagen's famous cameos will be missing. At 4, Mortimer Brewster, the American millionaire, will find it convenient to pay me £100,000 to cover up a few little irregularities in his shipping business. Then I shall go home for a bit of a nap, a late dinner, and then the grand finale.
Well, what's he got up his sleeve for this evening, the blighter?
I shall spend the evening at Buckingham Palace, where Her Majesty is giving a ball. All the best people will be there. I do hope you can manage to come, my dear Holmes, for at 12 midnight I shall blow the whole place to kingdom come. Until then, au revoir. Signed, Moriarty.
He's joking, of course. He must be joking. Blow up the palace. Good Lord, it's unthinkable. It's a nightmare.
It's worse than that, Lestrade. It could very well be the twilight of the gods for the British Empire.
You're joking, Holmes.
I was never more serious in my entire life. Come in.
Inspector Lestrade, sir. Scotland Yard sent me. They thought you ought to know,
sir. What, Albert? And straighten your tunic.
Yes, sir. The Sailors and Merchants' Bank, sir, has been robbed, and the Merchants' Guild Hall has been set afire, sir.
You can't very well blame Watson for those calamities, Lestrade.
Maybe we should have locked you up too, Holmes.
But there's something else, sir.
What's that, Albert?
Mr. Pomfret, sir. Mr. Hector Pomfret was found tied up this flat when his charlady come to work this morning, sir.
Good Lord.
The city says he's been tied up since he went home to dress for the concert last night, sir.
But he was at the concert. I saw him with my own 2 eyes.
No, Lestrade, you saw someone who impersonated Hector Pomfret. The same man who earlier impersonated Dr. Watson, I suspect. I was pretty sure it wasn't Pomfret himself when he arrived so promptly. He hadn't had time to change, you know. And then when I saw his ears, I was certain.
His ears? What's that got to do with it?
A good makeup can disguise any feature except ears. The ears on the man who escorted Mrs. Tecumseh Jones were not the ears I'd noticed on Mr. Pomfret earlier in the day.
Whose ears were they, do you suppose?
I rather imagine they belonged to Professor Moriarty. I'm convinced he spent the last few years studying the art of disguise.
But then we wouldn't know him if we ran into him.
I would, Lestrade. I shall be looking for his ears tonight at the ball at Buckingham Palace. Do you think you could manage to release Watson in time to accompany me? I hate to carry my own revolver. It destroys the fit of one's evening clothes, don't you know?
You've seen clothes whose very appearance breathes fine quality, graceful tailoring, perfect fit, rich, long-wearing materials. But unless you've worn Clippercraft clothes, you've never seen that kind of suit at only $40 and $45, or that kind of topcoat or overcoat at only $40. The quality so evident in Clippercraft clothes is made possible by the sensational Clippercraft plan. It concentrates the buying power of 924 leading independent stores across the nation, bringing you the savings that result from this group buying. Yes, even clothing experts are amazed at these remarkable Clippercraft values. Clothes that are truly fine in every way at the price of ordinary clothes. Selling expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest independent stores is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
These leading stores in the metropolitan area are proud to add their names to Clippercraft in your suit, top coat, and overcoat. In Manhattan, John Wanamaker Men's Stores, Broadway at 8th and 67 Liberty Street. Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th. In Brooklyn, Abraham and Strauss. In Newark, New Jersey, Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge Newark. And in Jamaica, the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue.
Quite a bean feast, eh, Holmes? Oh, nothing like a ball at Buckingham Palace. Brings out the flower of the empire, I always say.
Quite a contrast to Bow Street Jail.
Yes, I shan't forgive you for that in a hurry, Holmes. Oh, here comes Lestrade, looking like a mother hen whose ducks have taken to water.
Look here, Holmes. I can't help worrying that someone sneaked in that confounded bomb in an opera cloak on a bustle.
My dear Lestrade, I told you I'd taken care of that. Shinwell Johnson has provided us with the best pickpockets in the business. They're acting as coat-room attendants. I promise you, every guest of this party has been thoroughly, if unobtrusively, gone over. Not a pocket handkerchief has been overlooked.
And I've had my men frisk the staff.
The great danger, of course, is the refreshments.
Well, I've ordered supper served in tents at the opposite end of the grounds, like you suggested. If it's too far for the guests to walk, so much the better. They'll have to get along in the punch and champagne.
And very nice champagne, too, I must say.
Yes, the old widow of Windsor keeps an excellent cellar, God bless her.
And keep her from harm.
Amen.
There's your Albert, Lestrade. What's he carrying in that basket?
Hey, Albert. Come here, lad. What's that you've got in the basket?
I'm taking in a chicken and a bottle of wine to the boys, sir. There's to be no refreshments served here, and the boys are uncommon hungry.
So we, Albert. Suppose you give us that basket.
Very good, sir.
Holmes, you're not going to have a picnic lunch here.
A nice, plump chicken, Albert. And rather heavy. Wait a minute. Where are you going?
Get another chicken for the boys, sir.
Oh, no, Albert. Stay here and share this one with us.
Holmes, that chicken, it's ticking.
Yes, Watson, it contains a very ingenious time bomb. When is it set to go off, Professor Moriarty?
At 12 o'clock, which is in exactly 30 seconds.
You're not, Albert.
Quite. Hang on to me, Lestrade. I'll take care of the bomb.
There's no time. 30 seconds. Holmes, throw that chicken out of the window.
It'll blow him to bits.
The fool. Why didn't he throw the bomb? Why did he have to run with it?
Because you can only throw it about 50 feet. The explosion would be too close. It would start a panic. On the other hand, it's remarkable how far you can run if you've been a sprinter in your youth like Holmes.
Will it never be 12 o'clock? It's the longest 30 seconds of my entire life.
I'm certain something's wrong. I'm sure, kid.
Calm yourself, madam. It's just the signal to start the fireworks. Yes, there goes the first Roman candle.
Oh, it's lovely. Oh, it's
Holmes.
so beautiful.
Holmes, where did you get rid of that bomb?
I tossed it into the lake. Created quite a splash, but the water deadened the explosion.
One more question, Holmes. How in thunder did you know it wasn't Albert?
By his ears. Albert's ears are what you might call outstanding.
By Jove, of course. Why didn't I think of that?
Well, Dr. Watson, that was certainly a case of never a dull moment with Sherlock Holmes. So that was the end of Professor Moriarty.
On the contrary, he managed to give Lestrade the slip on the way to prison. Secretly, I believe Holmes was so glad to have the scoundrel back, he was both relieved and delighted.
And now, Dr. Watson, I wonder if you'd like to give us a hint about next week's story.
Next week, I think I'll tell you about a friend of mine who married a beautiful young South American lady he had only known a few weeks. It wasn't long after he brought her home to England that his household began to suspect she was a vampire.
A vampire? Good Lord, is there such a thing, Dr. Watson?
But suppose you wait till next week, Mr. Harris, and find out.
makers of Clippercraft clothes and 924 leading stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is produced and directed by Basil Lochran with special music by Albert Berman. If you don't know your Clippercraft dealer, write Clippercraft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Help save lives by buying Christmas seals. These seals support the fight against tuberculosis. Buy and use Christmas seals and mail your packages early. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in the Sussex Vampire. If you'd like to attend the Sherlock Holmes broadcasts in New York, see your local Clippercraft dealer, and he'll tell you how to obtain your tickets. Speaking for Clippercraft Clothes. This is the world's largest network, serving more than 450 radio stations with the mutual broadcasting system.
Welcome back. Well, this episode had some fun highlights to it. I have to admit that Holmes chose a hard route to prove Watson was not the person behind the robberies. Just let Lestrade take him away, and then let the criminal strike somewhere else. At this point, I do think that this particular Sherlock Holmes series has defined the relationship between Holmes and Watson as kind of a grumpy old men situation. And while I don't necessarily like the arrangement, I'm getting used to it. So not really bothering me at this point. One thing that did get me was having Watson in character do a commercial for Clippercraft clothes. That's just kind of, I don't know, a little bit cheesy. And I have heard at least one other episode when I was previewing this series that perhaps takes it even a step further than this. But that's still some way away. But that will actually do it for this week's show. We will be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. And join us next Thursday for another exciting adventure of Sherlock Holmes. Also, a reminder that we do the Old Time Dragnet podcast every Saturday, radiodragnet.com. Before we get started with today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, I do want to remind you about JohnnyDollarAir.com. Looking at our reports, I see a couple of our listeners have already taken advantage of JohnnyDollarAir.com this month, which is powered by Priceline. Cost of travel is rising, and the negotiating power of Priceline.com offers a lot of ways to save money, either by taking advantage of special published rates, or by naming your own price, or combine a hotel, rental car, and even airline tickets. Find out what savings are available to you and help support the great detectives of old-time radio. And visit JohnnyDollarAir.com for all of your travel needs. Now it's time for today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, The Starlet Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for John Lund as Johnny Dollar.
Ken Ralston, Johnny.
Oh, hi, Ken. How's Kansas City?
Take my word, in Hollywood it's better.
Oh?
You always liked Hollywood, didn't you, Johnny?
You want me to?
Now, there's a man there named Phil Gardner. He's up to here in Starlet.
In what?
Starlet, young girls with big careers in front of them. Phil Gardner's an agent for them.
So he needs me?
Oh, we do, Johnny. Twin State Insurance. Gardner's been calling me every half hour. It's like this, Johnny. Gardner's insured a few of these starlets with us. One in particular for $50,000.
So?
So, mostly Gardner's been babbling. He says this starlet in particular might not live. Babbles somebody wants her dead any second. You like Hollywood, Johnny?
Commission?
Fat. Real fat.
Hollywood. I like it.
John Lund in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Twin State Insurance Company, Kansas City, Missouri. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Starlet matter. Expense account item 1, $227.70. Airfare round trip on coach out of LaGuardia, flight 601, flying west. Some 3,000 bumpy miles later, the plane circled Los Angeles in a part of the Pacific Ocean and taxied down the runway at International Airport. It was 3:20 of a dirty afternoon. Expense account item 2, $440, cab fare to Sunset Ruxton Hotel, my home away from home in Hollywood, where I checked in, renewed old acquaintances with Judy, the telephone girl, put my pale cheek against her suntan, and told her I'd see her later. Expense account item 3, $2 even, to Beverly Hills office of Phil Gardner, agent. He was not in. The receptionist in silver hair pointed a silver fingertip across the street and said that's where. Chez Scotty's restaurant. And Mr. Gardner would be dressed with 2 vents in the back, a Tattersall vest, and blue suede sandals. And you know, he was.
So you're the boy they sent from KC, huh? Wait, I'll scooch over a little. You can sit down.
Yeah, thanks.
What's your name?
Dollar, Johnny Dollar.
You want to see a picture, Johnny? Here, take a look. That's Toby.
Toby?
Toby Drake. You've seen her in pictures.
I have.
You're living. You must have seen her in pictures. Loyal moviegoers like you are going to make a star out of Toby.
Well, I'm happy for both of you.
If she lives. Somebody's going to kill her, Johnny. Murder her dead. Now, she's a sweet kid. It shouldn't happen to her to die from these anonymous threats.
Look, why don't you give it to your press agent?
Johnny, believe me, on my knees, I tell you. If I want publicity, I give it to the cops. I'm not kidding, Johnny. The kid's scared. She's in a lot of trouble.
Call for you, Mr. Gardner. I'll plug it in here.
Oh, thanks, Charlie.
Right this way.
Gardner speaking. Snap it out. I'm busy. Huh? No. Yeah, huh? No. Yeah. Skeptic.
Huh?
I just called you skeptic.
What's that mean?
Toby's dead. Her boyfriend called. I should be the first to know.
I'm sorry.
Look, I'll drive you over there. You'll want to see for insurance purposes, huh? I'll use the Jag. I'll put the top down.
Sure. You wouldn't go to a funeral any other way, would you, Phil?
Here's where. Johnny, get me something, a drink of water or something like that.
The place swarming with things. Chintz curtains, plump upholstery, and Beverly Hills Oriental knickknacks cluttering the Grand Rapids highboy. I walked over to the 3-piece sectional. Toby Drake was lying there, her hand trailing down to the floor. I couldn't see her face until the big man stood up.
Somebody wrapped that black silk stocking too tight around her neck.
You wrapped the stocking?
Look, Buster, a call came to headquarters and said get here because there was a dead girl named Toby Drake. There is. And all of a sudden you're here. Why?
Something they have around this town. An agent. He's Toby's.
Agent? Oh, well. Talk to me, Agent.
Sure, Lieutenant.
Just Detective Koska. Lieutenant, I'll never make. Go ahead.
Well, it was like this. Johnny and me sit there at Scotty's chewing fat, and the phone was brought over, and the man on the other end says it's Mr. Fulton. And he says his girlfriend's dead. Honest, I'm broken up about this.
Well. You wrapped the stocking, Agent?
Johnny. He's Johnny Dollar. He's from the insurance.
Well. Well, you been hired, Dollar?
Yeah, Twin City Insurance.
And for me, too, Johnny. All the way, find out for me who killed Toby.
Hired, huh? These guys employ you, huh? Well, well. Little bulge there. You carry a gun, too. Oh, well.
Yeah. Where's her boyfriend?
In the bedroom. Name's Roy Fulton. He hardly says a word to me. Go talk to him, Dollar. Go tell him it's okay. You can talk to him. Who are you?
Johnny Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
Toby's dead.
She was murdered, Mr. Fulton. I'm trying to find out who did it.
We had a date. I came here. I saw her. I didn't lose my head. I called her agent. Then I called the police.
Did you kill her?
No. No. But she should have been more careful. Girls like her.
What kind of girl did you think she was?
Very pretty. Just beautiful. Now no more. Toby. Just beautiful Toby.
Mr. Fulton.
Lost. Forever.
Mr. Fulton.
For always. Nowhere. Toby. Beautiful Toby.
I couldn't get through to him anymore. I gave him back to Casca, and I got out of there. A few thoughts on Toby Drake. Toby, a kid who'd once maybe won a beauty contest. Expenses paid to Hollywood, shake hands with the stars. A nice kid. Pretty kid on her way, now dead. I bought a paper and went back to my hotel. The lobby desk came first.
Hi, Mr. Dollar.
Any calls for me, Judy?
You got a call with a message. You want it?
Why don't you come over here and give it to me, Judy? I've never seen you standing up.
I'm taller. The message came in 10 minutes ago. You want to reach for it? Shall I read it to you?
Read it.
Goes like this. First Toby, then Stella Martin. You can't stop it, Dollar.
First Toby, then Stella Martin. You ad-libbing this, Judy?
Says right here.
Who left the message?
I took the call. The man said it and hung up. What Stella Martin does he mean, Mr. Dollar?
I wish I knew, baby.
You think maybe the starlet Stella Martin used to be a starlet? She's not around much anymore.
Starlet, huh? How would I get in touch with a starlet, Judy? Oh, I know. Hand me that phone book. Come on, come on.
Who are you calling?
A man who knows starlets past and present. Agent Phil Gardner. Oh.
Not in, huh? Why don't you try Hollywood casting, Mr. Dollar? They'd know.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Stella Martin dropped from our ready file. Non-payment of dues.
Well, there must be an address where you done her.
2001 Magnolia Avenue, Westchester.
You want what, mister?
Stella Martin. She live here?
Uh-huh. You're who?
Johnny Dollar. Investigations.
You got a card that says that?
Let's go inside, huh?
Just you got a card, just show me.
Miss Martin here?
No card, huh? Suppose I say yes, she's here. Then what happens?
I said inside.
Glad you did that, Sonny. Now I got a reason.
Now cut it out. I just want to...
You're smaller than you look.
Oh, try me. later, when I opened my eyes, he was gone. I got to my feet, fell down, and finally made it over to the hallway, where there should have been a bathroom and a towel and some water. The thing that stopped me was the girl in the negligee. She was sitting on the floor against the wall. She was blonde, and her head was turned to one side as if she was wondering about me. There was a stocking tied around her throat, and she was dead.
We'll return to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I'd seen the dead girl a couple times. In the jungle picture, spliced between the main feature and the newsreel. The girl in the South Sea apron who gets chased by the gorilla. I stopped trying to convince myself it wasn't real. It was real, all right. I didn't need the pounding on the door to knock it into my head. I didn't need Detective Koska either.
What is it, Dollar? You on a rampage?
Now, you want to know what happened, or you want to be a big man?
Just be gentle with me. That's all I want you to do. 15 minutes ago, I was in a warm bed. So just be gentle.
I got slugged. A man 7 feet tall in a black leather jacket.
I spent 5 hours questioning Roy Fulton about the murder of this girlfriend of his, Toby. Nothing. I let him go. Then I climbed into this warm bed, and I was sleeping fine. Then Sergeant Hurd called. Seems someone phoned in this address to Sergeant Hurd. Now, you were saying what, Dollar?
She's in the hallway, propped against the wall.
Show me.
Sigh a deep sigh about the warm bed, Koska. She's young and she's strangled. And her name's Stella Martin.
You want to clear it up for me?
I got word about her. I came here and a guy clobbered me. I woke up a few minutes ago.
Nobody gives me words, Dollar. Why you?
I don't know why. If I knew why, I'd know who. You want to listen about a guy in a black leather jacket?
7 feet tall, huh?
Yeah, about. Brown felt hat. Find him. That oughtn't to be tough for a big man like you.
Don't be sour on me, Dollar. You took some lumps. You see this, kid?
What?
Yeah. She's holding something in her hand. What? Well. Read it, Johnny. Read what it says.
There'll be another one tomorrow, Dollar.
Another one tomorrow, Dollar. Well, now.
What makes me so popular, Koska? Why doesn't it say your name?
Because it says Dollar. Because it says the name of a guy I stumble over when I get out of a warm bed. What am I going to do with you? Take you downtown and sweat you? Get out of here, Dollar. Get out.
Then back into the rose-scented air and the suburban lawn, now littered with friends and neighbors. And under the bright neon of the corner cut-rate drugs and sundries, the night-blooming hack stand. I took a cab to my hotel. No more messages, so I went to sleep. And the next morning, the sound of the telephone screaming the name of Phil Gardner, agent. Get here, it said. So I got there.
Girls drop like flies where you walk, Dollar. I read the papers this morning, and you were there, and another one dropped.
Now, what's the matter, Phil? Only yesterday we were in love, you and I.
Now, don't ask me. Can't we even be friends? It's a tired line from a tired guy. I don't like tired.
Let me tell you something, Phil. I'm glad you called. You were going to be my first stop.
Now, look, you were hired to maybe prevent Toby Drake's dying, and this you were a flopola, a stinkeroo. Then you stay on, maybe you could come up with why Toby, a talented girl, had to die. Well, like I said, stinkeroo.
On your feet, Phil.
Now, keep away from me, Johnny.
On your feet.
Now,
Now we talk.
I'm talking.
You killed Toby, Phil?
My arm, Johnny.
Toby was on her way, maybe a star soon. Also with insurance, $50,000. Beneficiary you.
My arm.
That why you killed her?
Johnny.
And all this big talk on the phone this morning. Get down here. Cover up talk, Phil. All right. And we'll try the name Stella Martin.
I'll level with you. Just let go my arm. Stella Martin, a 3 months ago pickup. From Dorcas Drive-In on Santa Monica, a guy gets lonesome for a car hop like Stella. A friendly pickup, so help me.
Huh. You did lovely, Phil. Now, one thing more. You know a man who wears a leather jacket who's 7 feet tall?
Somebody help me. I got a madman loose.
Goodbye, Phil. You've made the morning even worse. I got to the drive-in on Santa Monica. A cowgirl with a menu and a pair of heavy-duty sheer dungarees threw a card on my windshield that said Phyllis on it. Dorcas, she asked back. Why, that's old Melv over that way. I moseyed on over to old Melv.
Howdy.
Johnny Dollar, insurance investigation.
Milva and Dorcas. Shout out a fella.
Howdy.
Howdy.
You the manager of this place, Melv?
Yeah. Top hand.
Oh, what else?
Huh?
Oh, tenderfoot talk. Don't let it throw you. I need some information, Melv.
Yeah, don't be a gravel kicker, son. Speak up. What's on your mind?
Know a girl named Toby Drake, Melv?
Yeah, I know her. Used to work here.
One named Stella Martin?
Yeah. Do the work this evening. She ain't gonna make it, though. She's dead. She and Toby. Choked. Seen it in the Gazette.
I need your help, Melv.
Deputize me. Well, I don't know. I just don't know.
If you don't help, there's liable to be another dead girl.
Peggy.
Who?
What's the matter, son? You got monkeys in your ears? I said Peggy. Peggy Bryan. On account of them 3 girls were thicker than the bobcat's tail.
Do tell.
Yeah, thicker than that even. Peggy used to work here, too. Drove to work in Toby's auto.
You know where I can find Peggy?
North Hollywood she lives in. Yeah, you wait a bit. I'll dig up her address. You want to wait, son, or you got to be riding on?
I'll wait, Melv.
Get away. Get away from me. Whoever you are, get away.
Listen to me, Miss Bryan. I've come to help you.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you before you kill me.
Don't be crazy. Give me that gun. There. That's better.
To kill me. That's why you come to kill me.
Now, let's scream inside. We don't want to make talk for the neighbors. Inside, Peggy. Now, hush, hush, baby girl. Hush. You see? I let you go. It's nothing to be scared of. I'm here to help you. To keep it from happening. Like it did to Stella and Toby. You understand what I'm saying, Peggy?
Stella. Toby, they're dead. And now it'll be me.
Why does it have to be you, Peggy?
You don't know? You kill and you don't know why?
Try to understand. I'm an insurance investigator. A lot of times I'm around when people die. Sometimes I get there sooner. Now help me. Help me, Peggy, so I can help you. That way we'll save us both a lot of pain.
I'm so frightened. Because I'm so frightened.
Whoever killed Toby and Stella, why would they want to kill you?
I know why. I think I know.
Well, tell me, Peggy.
A woman was killed. We killed her.
Tell me about it.
It was 3 years ago. Toby, Stella, and I. We had a little car. We used to take trips. 3 summers ago, we took a trip to Oregon. One day.
One day what?
This woman crashed into us. It was her fault. Honest, it was her fault.
And she was killed?
Married woman. Young and pretty. And married. The police said it wasn't our fault and let us go. Only we. Why else would anyone want us dead?
It's Saturday, Peggy. What do you do with yourself on Saturdays?
I shop. For groceries. A new dress sometimes.
We'll go buy you a new one. You and me. And tonight? What do we do tonight?
You mean you're asking me for a date?
Uh-huh. What do we do tonight?
Saturday nights I usually go to Ocean Park. It's fun. Rides with people. It's fun.
Sure it is. Saturday night, Ocean Park. We'll have fun. So I made a lot of phone calls. To my hotel to tell Judy I was going to Ocean Park with a girl named Peggy Bryan, in case anyone inquired. Then I called Agent Phil Gardner and let him know where I was going. Finally, I called Roy Fulton, Toby's boyfriend, and let him know all about my plans for the evening. And then I went shopping with Peggy Bryan and then took her to Ocean Park. Peggy Bryan, Pigeon.
Let's just walk for a while, Johnny.
Whatever you say. You hungry, Peggy?
Let's go on the roller coaster.
Sure. Peggy,
What?
just stand still for a moment. Look around you. Do you see anybody you know?
No. I know what you're doing, Johnny.
Why, sure. I'm on a Saturday night date with a nice girl.
You think you'll find me here, Johnny?
You want me to level, don't you?
Is he going to kill me?
I'm going to try to stop him, Peggy. Come on, let's eat. Two tickets, please. Thanks. Let's go, Peggy.
Stay close to me, Johnny. A girl can get lost in the funhouse. Johnny. Oh, Johnny.
What's the matter, Peggy?
Nothing. I'm having such a good time.
Ever been through that spinning barrel?
Oh, I always fall down.
I'll hold your hand.
Johnny.
What?
That man over there. He watched us buy our tickets.
Which man?
The tall one.
Yeah, I see him. Peggy, walk through that spinning barrel. Fall down if you have to, but get right up and get out on the other side.
Is he the one?
Go on. I'm right in back of you.
He's following us.
Get out of this thing fast. I'm staying.
I've been tailing you, Seamus.
I've been waiting. You had enough, Shorty?
Yeah.
Come on, I'll drag you out of here. Now talk. Talk or so help me.
You're crazy, Seamus.
Talk.
You think I killed her? I didn't kill Stella. She was dead when I got there. I swear she was dead.
Yeah, sure she
And
was.
you came in. I went crazy. I wanted to kill. Something to get even.
And why are you following me?
Because you're a Seamus. If we get to the killer, I want a piece of him. I didn't kill Stella. I was in love with her. You gotta believe me. You got to.
Peggy, what's the matter?
The mirror! Look, the mirror!
He was in the mirror, all right. Roy Fulton's reflection. Boyfriend of Toby. Long and thin as if he'd been squeezed together, which included the gun he was holding. I pulled Peggy down on the floor with me and grabbed for my gun.
It's her! I want...
Something happened to him. Something red that splintered on the front of his shirt. But he kept coming. Then the something caught up with him. Fulton, are you...
They killed my wife. They killed her.
Expense account item 4, 1995. To dress a pigeon named Peggy Bryant. Item 5, $112 miscellaneous. Hotels, meals, roller coaster ride, funhouse, etc. Expense account total, $366.05. Remarks: pay Phil Gardner, agent, face value of $50,000 policy on Toby Drake. Well, all in all, from your point of view, my trip to Hollywood was a failure. From my point of view, I kept one girl out of 3 alive, and I was lucky at that. Luckier than you usually get in Hollywood. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Morton Fine and David Friedkin with music by Eddie Dunstetter. John Lund can currently be seen in the Universal International picture Just Across the Street. Featured in tonight's cast were Raymond Burr, Dick Ryan, John McIntyre, Sidney Miller, Victor Perrin, Virginia Gregg, and Jeanette Nolan. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Cubberly inviting you to join us next week at this time when John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Tomorrow, Gangbusters brings you on CBS Radio another true crime story, naming names and places, giving complete details on the operations of a ruthless criminal gang, showing you how the cops, after a bitter manhunt, put them out of business. Every Saturday night on most of these same stations, hear Gangbusters, the program that gives criminals wanted descriptions that help the public enforce the law and often collect rewards for their good citizenship. Gangbusters, Saturday nights on CBS Radio.
And remember, you'll find Western adventure and music with Gene Autry, Saturday evenings on the CBS Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, this was a bit of a treat. A rare episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, written by Morton Fine and David Friedkin. Now, the episode didn't have quite a Johnny Dollar feel in some ways. I love the way it was told, and John Lund did a good job with the script, even though it was remarkably different from what we've heard before. This episode was actually written as a pilot for a new series for Howard Duff post Sam Spade called The McCoy. And so it had some of those feels. I was listening to Johnny Dollar called like 3 or 4 different people in this episode baby, and I was like, what's that about? But then I recognized this as a pilot. The pilot was produced in 1951 for NBC, did not go forward, but the writers saved the script. And so they were able to bring this episode. Again, this one showed just the fantastic hallmarks of Friedkin and Fine. And they had actually written a somewhat similar script, but with a different outcome for both Broadway's My Beat and for Pursuit. This one definitely had a noirish feel to it, with a less friendly than usual relationship between Johnny Dollar and the local constabulary. But Lund does show if there's any complaints about the episodes, about the Lund series, you can't really blame it on Lund. Given, he did a very hard-boiled, very strong script. So if there's any complaint, it's going to be with the writing, because Lund handled this one beautifully. Well, speaking of the series writing, Mark sends an email, says, you've commented that several of the early Yours Truly Johnny Dollar, starring John Lund, were later turned into 5-part stories in the Bailey area. Since the Lund audition story was apparently originally a 5-parter, although only 2 episodes were actually made, it seems the producers of Dollar were considering the show in 5-part format many years before Bailey starred. If that's the case, then it seems reasonable to assume those early Lund episodes were originally written as 5-parters and had to be adapted to the 30-minute format rather than the other way around. Then when Dollar finally did move to the 5-part format nearly 3 years later, they finally had the chance to use those 5-part scripts that the way they had been originally intended. There's maybe something to that. Doubt that was the case with every episode. Radio writers have to write ahead a little bit, so I could see maybe the first couple 3 episodes having of the John Lund era having originally been fully written as 5-parters. I couldn't see. They ended up doing more than 20 episodes written by a couple of writers, Crutchfield and E. Jack Newman, that were turned into these longer form serials. So I can't see that all of them were written that way in advance. I could imagine that E. Jack Newman had plot outlines for a 5-part serial on some of those, which would make them easy to adapt. And I might think plot outlines for several, but probably adaptations, completely writing out the scripts in 5 parts. That would be, I think, a little bit intensive on the writers, particularly if they didn't know for sure how the series was going to go. Well, that was a good thought. Then we have this comment. I love Nero Wolf. Sorry it is over. Glad to find some new shows, though. Thanks for what you do. From Simon 17 says on Podcast Alley. Well, thanks a lot, Simon. Well, that will do it for today's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. We'll be back on Monday with Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, and come back on Friday with Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. In the meanwhile, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.